It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. This is the biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred.
Speaking his mind.
I've never had a problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way.
Exploring hot topics.
Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do.
And spreading the gospel of drag racing.
I respect the history. I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. This is the great American motorsport, drag racing.
The Wes Buck Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, man. I love that music. I really do. It gets me every time. I get a little excited. Hey, gang. Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. Hope you guys are doing well, fresh off another absolutely incredible weekend for the sport of drag racing. And we're going to cover as much of it as we possibly can right here on the Wes Buck Show. We've got a ton of special guests today. We're going to be joined in just a few minutes by arguably the best to ever do it, the one, the only Tony Schumacher, fresh off a huge win at the conclusion of the NHRA Western Swing out in Seattle, Washington. We're also going to hear from Troy Coughlin Jr. This was a big one. I have to wonder, and one of the first things I'm going to ask him, did you think that this was going to elude you forever? Like, did you ever think it was going to happen? I'm sure he did, but TJ broke through for his first ever NHRA Pro Stock win this past weekend, also in Seattle, which I think was a really substantial happening when you think about the legacy and the legend that is the Coughlin family and what they've done in drag racing and what they've done specifically in NHRA Pro Stock. It cannot really be overstated, and to see TJ fall in and add one of his own Pro Stock Wallies to that huge collection in Ohio was a pretty incredible thing. We're also going to hear from Tony Gillig, fresh off. I think I've said fresh off 3 times, so that could be the new drinking game. Anyways, Tony Gillig just spent the weekend out at Virginia Motorsports Park during the PDRA special in-season kind of celebration of their stars and cars, the Pro Stars event, which by all accounts was a monumental success. So I'm excited to hear about that. He's also going to share with us a little bit of the insight, inner workings, if you will, of the Mountain Motor Pro Stock exhibition series that has been contested as part of the NHRA for the last couple of seasons. What else is going on? The IHRA was sold apparently over the course of the last few days. We've got to talk about that. I think that's huge news, a very, very significant happening. I think I've got a fairly hot take on this. I think it's actually scalding hot, so that's exciting. I love a hot take, right? I hope you all do too. Before we get any further along, we've got 2 important things to do. First and foremost, what's up, Mike Carpenter?
What's up, man?
Welcome back, man.
I hope your take on IHRA is not too hot, or it's not too much like mine. We didn't rehearse this.
It's hot. Like I said, scalding. The water is boiling, brother. And it's all good, but I really do have some fairly strong opinions on some of these moves and how they will ultimately unfold and the impact that they will have. We all hold some of these sanctions in obviously we hold the NHRA.
The memories run deep.
The memories run deep, and it's easy to get nostalgic about this stuff and think about how it used to be, and what's Brett Kepner call it, glory day-itis, right? We're all like, oh, it used to be so much better, blah, 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 back when we didn't have air conditioning in our trailers, and you know what I mean? It is funny, but I would like to spend a little bit of time talking about it. But real quick, Mike, do you want to roll the Should we roll?
Yeah, let's
This
do
is
it.
a new project. If for those that don't know or haven't been following along, we've rolled out a new piece of content here at Drag Illustrated that we're quite proud of. One of the things, when I look around the industry, a couple things, quick points. There needs to be more content. I mean, and we're doing our level best here at Drag Illustrated to keep the conversation going through the week. As you've all heard me say a billion times, it's easy to be excited on Friday with qualifying on the horizon. It's really excited to be on Saturday and Sunday when you're in the throes of the race weekend. But historically, it's gotten a little quiet through the week. It's that Monday through Thursday that we really need to ramp up to keep people interested, to keep people engaged in the sport of drag racing. And one of our answers to that was a short bit of quick hitting content called Drag Illustrated's The 330. It's a 3-minute and 30-second video that, in our opinion, kind of encapsulates everything that's cool or newsworthy or noteworthy that took place over the weekend. So let's roll that video, talk about it briefly, and we'll dive right into our conversation with Tony Schumacher. Here we go, boys and girls. Oh, I have to hit play? I got to get a producer in here. I'm just joking. What a shot there, right? Of the wheel stander there at the end. That's pretty
gotta
solid.
love a
Man.
wheel
You
stander,
gotta love
man.
a wheel stander. You
That's
almost
old school.
forget it's been a hot minute since I've even seen a wheel stander.
What a
to be
great
honest.
video though. Shout out to Blake Fontenelle, new video producer here at DI, and we've got him just working 24/7 on awesome videos like that.
I tell you, man, I'm proud of this stuff. Dare I get up on my soapbox for a moment? We won this deal, brother. Like, I just don't see anybody else doing it. Like, I thought about this overnight, and I got a really nice text message from Nicole Erickson this morning, just saying, "Hey, man, the Drag Illustrated social's killing it." It's like, thank you, but someone's got to do it. Like, I thought about this last night. It's a tremendous amount of work. Like, we could literally hire 3 or 4 more people probably and keep them all busy. But I started to ask myself, do we want drag racing to be treated like a real sport? Do we want to be mentioned in the same breath as Formula One and NASCAR and all these other things? We have to act it. Like, I mean, at some point,
tough, man.
Somebody's got to step up and say, hey, we're going to keep a light shined on these people 24/7. We're going to stick cameras in their faces. We're going to track their stats. We're going to do the things that are required. And maybe one of these days I'll just fall over dead from exhaustion and nothing will have happened. I don't know.
We're worried about that. But yeah, man, it's tough to get all this content aggregated and get stuff like that together. But as I think technology progresses, NHRA is sending out these clips, doing a ton of stuff on their end to help facilitate this by any media companies that want to be involved. And so I think that as sort of the landscape changes, that this, is something that is more sustainable and feasible. But
we have to.
Until then, we're just going to keep cranking.
We're going to keep cranking it out, man. And I just think that it's that whole age-old thing: act as if. Yeah. Right? I mean, I want to act as if drag racing is the center of the universe. And I think that we all have to do that. And I look around the sport and people are so quick to, we need to be as excited about the good things that are happening and the exciting stuff that's happening as we are pissed off about the negative things that happen. Like, we have to, I know that I'm asking to change human nature. I'm asking to change culture as a whole. But man, if we could be as excited and wound up and fired up about the good things that are happening, the exciting things that are happening in our sport as we are. I mean, I think about the news, and this will be a great segue into introducing our first guest, Tony Schumacher, perhaps arguably the best to ever do it. As we bring him in here.
Before we do that,
okay, go ahead.
I want to jump in and say I was watching that video, and then I was thinking back to last week. And I don't think anybody had it scripted to where we had Don on last week talking about selling the team and doing the exclusive interview. And then we were going to have Tony on this week talking about his first win since 2020 and the first race out under new team ownership. So you can't write a better script.
You can't. And I got to give kudos to the NHRA, because I said this during our team meeting earlier in the week that I was proud and genuinely excited to see the NHRA give Joe Maynard the kind of hero's welcome that he received in Seattle, because I thought, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps and excited. Like, these guys need celebrated. When you see someone come in and say, hey, I'm willing to stroke a check, I want to throw my hat in the ring, I want to be part of this. Passion, we have to ask with the same, we have to react to that with the same reverence and the same level of enthusiasm and passion as everybody did when the thought that Don Schumacher was getting out of drag racing, right? If you compare and contrast the internet reactions, you got 50 million people freaking out that Don Schumacher's bailing on the sport. But then, by and large, where's all the celebration and freaking out about, we've got a brand new team owner, putting a guy like Tony Schumacher behind the wheel, keeping him in the sport. I mean, I don't know how Tony felt about it. We'll find out. But I was genuinely pissed off to see him on the sidelines. We can't have Tony Schumacher
I was
not
thinking
racing.
about that as well. For a while, he was probably the face or one of the faces, especially with the Army sponsorship of NHRA. I mean, when you saw that Army car and you saw the Sarge, that was NHRA, and to have a guy like him on the sidelines, and we saw some of his experience and veteran savvy on Sunday in eliminations. Especially the round that stuck out to me was the one against Justin Ashley. Both cars get into a pedal fest, holes out. Justin Ashley, phenomenal young driver, but Tony's savvy and being able to get back in that thing and keep it under control. I mean, pointed like laser straight as this thing is just blowing the tires off over and over, while Justin Ashley is over there doing a road course type
Which
thing.
I thought was pretty dope, to be honest.
Which I did too, and
Yeah.
and it shows how hard he was fighting for that win. But they made comments about that during the broadcast, and I really think that that's something that we've missed. We missed him.
Don't you think he also knows how to be a hero on
yeah.
camera? I was going to say, God bless the driving ability, but the media experience and just knowing how to be the hero, knowing how to behave and to carry himself. And he's got the look of a race car driver. It's very important. And I just we'll kind of book in this tip of the cap to the NHRA. They kept sticking a camera in Joe Maynard's face, and
saw him
people
more than
don't realize this guy's here. He's not necessarily trying to sell more widgets. He's not trying to drive brand value or whatever for his company. He's out here supporting the sport of drag racing. I'm sure they will turn that into a successful cash flow positive business, or at least that's the goal. And it's just great that the NHRA really poured it on, because he needs to see his name in lights. He needs to get treated like, it's the same way down here in Texas, and this is Jerry Jones. This guy, the owner of the Cowboys, he's treated like a Christ-like figure down here, right? I mean, he is treated with significant reverence. You know, people celebrate this dude. They also hate on him, which is, par for the course. But we need to treat our drag racing owners much the same way. Celebrate them, make sure that their face is known and their name is known, and just have that be part of the conversation, because it also generates storylines, right? For us here in the media. So, hey, let me quit rambling and introduce the man of the hour. We're 6 minutes behind schedule, so I apologize. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Tony Schumacher.
What's Great up, to be here. Hey, it's good to be here.
What's up, dude?
I look dark.
Yeah, you're a little dark. You're all right. You're right. We have to get do you have a mag light or anything like that? You're something? No, you look good, man. Don't you worry about it. Hey, man, congratulations, dude. I'm going to put him in the middle. How about that? I'm going to put him there. I'm going to slide him over there and get my logo over your head. There's plenty of real estate there on that forehead of yours.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I could just get a tattoo up there, and we don't have to do that.
We could just knock out the logo. Yeah. Tony, congratulations, man. I got to ask, this whole moment, being back full-time on the tour after everything that's gone on the last few years, you've gone through a multitude of changes. And did you ever wonder if this would happen again, if you'd be in a situation to go out and compete for a championship, run at the front, hold that trophy on the top end?
Yeah, I definitely did. It was an uncomfortable moment. For the first year driving for the Army for 19 years, you think this is going to go on forever. And it was supposed to. It was just an odd deal. Kind of caught us all off guard at DSR for sure. We weren't expecting it, and we were left too late in the year to put a deal together. I was quite surprised something didn't come up, but we were looking for the right partners and the right situation. But yeah, it was terrible, man. I had to start thinking, man, we may never get another race car again. There's a lot of drivers out there. My dad had a big team, and the focus was on them at the time. And I felt a little bit left out in the cold.
I can imagine, man. I mean, and it's one of those things where the shoemaker's kids have holes in their shoes. Did you ever feel like that? Like dad's got this business and he's got to take care of these customers, and I have to be in this situation where I'm willing to kind of table my own career goals and my own personal things that I want to accomplish. Did you feel like that along the way?
Well, for sure. Part of the thing, and what I said from the beginning, is I'm not going to take Leah's job. I'm not going to take Antron's job. It's not what I do. And it would really be BS to do that. Those people earn their spot. They earn the right to be there. And it's not my personality. So what I didn't like, so to speak, was the Army program was so big that when Aaliyah didn't have a sponsor, we had the budget to do it. And when, someone else didn't, or Hagen didn't have it, we had that budget because it was put in a pot. And then when the Army deal went away, that pot, there was no one there to give me something to go race with. So it's hard to keep your face there when you're not in a car. I try to do my best with Fox, and I spent some time on TV, but that wasn't my goal, and it wasn't what I wanted to. I enjoy what they do, but Brian Loams and Tony, they got a good cast, good crew. It's not where I wanted to be. I enjoyed being there, watching the races, didn't want to be gone from the sport, but I felt like I was out there hanging, and I was quite surprised. And it made, I talked to Mike Salinas, I talked to different drivers, and they go, man, Torrance, he'd go, this is awful that you can't get a deal. We're all nervous. And, it took a little time, but I think it's stronger now. It's great to see where we're at. Guys like Joe and Kathy Maynard stepping up. They were both Army. Their son's an Army helicopter pilot. Was an Army helicopter pilot. The Army car got them hooked on drag racing. So when they had the opportunity to bring me back, and we just had to go out and find a few races, which we did with Skag Power Equipment, it was perfect. It all fell into place. And I knew from the get-go, right away, they were like, we want to be an owner. We don't just want to be out here sponsoring. And I think my dad knew that too. And very grateful that it all worked out so well, because, my dad could have been like, no, I'm keeping, he very easily. Right. And Joe would have been, on to finding another deal, because he did want to own it. So it just worked out great. But yeah, I was really gifted in the fact that, and I hate to use COVID in any way as a positive, but during that season, I got to go back and fill in for with Antron, actually, because he had some sponsors that were saying, wait, there's less races. And he put me in a car and got to go out there and look, got to win a race in Houston, which was a phenomenal race, because running a guy like Steve Torrence in the final, I had to race Steve and Billy Torrence, comes down to 6/10,000ths of a second at the finish line, in front of my wife's father and family. You really can't ask for anything like that. So it's funny though. I'm in the car, and as we're doing all this stuff, I'm listening to everyone talk, and they keep saying, well, it's been 2 years since you won. And I kept going, hang on, I wasn't in a car. It's really hard. It's really hard.
We need an asterisk on those stats, man.
Yeah, well, that's a fair point, man. And I think that's just how foreign of a notion it is, Tony, to be honest, that you're not. I thought about this a lot over the, kind of preparing to have you on the show, that to think about a world where you're not out here, it's such a foreign notion. It's such an unusual thing. Like, I can't imagine the NBA, allowing a situation to exist where, like, Steph Curry's just, we're just going to let him float as a free agent for 3 years.
To give some context to that, that was your 86th career win this past weekend, passing Bob Glidden to sit by yourself in 4th place all time in NHRA history among all classes. And when you're passing Bob Glidden in wins, you're doing something. And that's the caliber of person that we had on the sideline. So yeah, to your point, Wes, that's the kind of thing that drives us crazy here.
It really does, man. Did you ever anticipate, like, way back in the Exide days and struggling along and trying to put this was it ever on your, on the list of, like, I'm going to be mentioned alongside John Force, Bob Glidden, these legends of the sport? Did that ever cross your mind, Tony?
No, it still really doesn't cross my mind. It's mind-boggling that we've been fortunate to have such great teams. And it wasn't just an Alan Johnson. I won a lot of races with him, but I won with Mike Green. I won with Dan Olson. Really with Zippy. Me and Mike Neff are on a great roll now with Todd Okahara. So just been blessed with a lot of good people, and it just doesn't seem to end. It's great. I want to go back a minute though. One of the struggles we had, and this is total truth, is we owned 8 teams, right? We had a Napa car. So yeah, we sold battery chargers to all these people, but we couldn't go after an Advanced Auto. We couldn't go after an AutoZone. We couldn't go after anyone because we had a Napa car. We had a Pennzoil car at the time. We had a Mopar car. We had everything Matco Tools. I was locked, and you got to step outside the box, which is what I did with Skag Power Equipment. They had never been in drag racing before. You got to, and the people out looking at sponsors, you got to get them to a race. It is very difficult, and that's the problem. Like you say, we got to keep everyone's eyes open. They don't consider our sport the same as they consider Formula One. Once they get out here, they say it's by far better than anything they've ever seen, but you got to get them actively to the game.
How hard do you think that is? Because that's something that I think everybody in our space, we talk about it internally a lot, is that there's a lot of going back to the well. Like, you think about it, how many cars can, Jag sponsor? How many cars can Lucas sponsor? How many, and you start to see, like, man, we've got to branch out. We've got to go find some fresh blood, because right now we're all cannibalizing one another's deals. If XYZ racer gets a little bit of bread, he probably took it off ABC racer's table. You know what I mean? And it's tough.
And sold it out too. That's the problem. It just keeps, I do credit card processing, merchant service, and it's a race to the bottom. How cheap can you go? You just take someone's business. I'll just do it a little cheaper, and then someone does it a little cheaper. It's the same thing. I give Leah a lot of credit. She went out, and she's really one of the people that work probably the hardest at finding new sponsors, things that we haven't seen there before. Now you got Flavor Pack. That's super cool with Brittany. That's what we need. We need the outside companies to come in and go, this is great, because a long time ago, there was just an Army car and just a Bernstein Budweiser car and just and we all just one car, and that's what we were known for. But more often now, you got guys that are flipping and flopping between sponsors, different races, and kind of like we did this year. Next year, I think will be a little different, but it's a tough. You got to work it, and great example is Skag, right? They make lawnmowers. They make the best in the world. But in Vegas, there's no lawns. So it's real hard to say, hey, man, we need some money there. Now, the TV coverage is important and equal everywhere. So It's made them step their program up. But, like each place is kind of located in a different region. So you got to work that stuff. And I guess we're very fortunate that we got shows like this that we can go on, because the media, this kind of media, is very important for us. So the ratings, like the old Nielsen ratings, they're not looked upon as the same thing. And we get more coverage out of shows like this and situations like we're doing now than we ever did before.
I'm curious, Tony, like about 10 years ago, you told me a story about presenting a sponsorship to No Fear. And you tell it, and I'm going to ask you to tell it, and I'm going to kind of, so you know where I'm headed with this. And you mentioned it about Leah. I personally feel one of the initial faults, and I'm not trying to call anybody out, but the initial slogan of the NHRA, where the cars are the stars, personally, and I know that everybody has varying opinions about it, and the cars are important, don't get me wrong, but I just really feel that set us off kind of on the wrong path almost from the get-go, that the cars are not the stars. And that's the point you're making right now. Like, it's dangerous that you're known. That's really the reason Drag Illustrated exists. Is one of the, in 2005, my thought process was, everybody knows the Army car, but they don't even know what Tony looks like. They don't know what he sounds like. They don't know how he behaves. They don't know how. We've got to put faces to the names on the windows, right? And that's why if you pick up a copy of Drag Illustrated, we put out 177 of them as of Monday, and about 170 of them have had a human face on the cover.
One of the coolest ones ever was Tony and Larry face to face. Larry Dixon.
That may be the best cover
like a
we've ever
pre-fight
done.
stare down. That may still.
I'm quite
be my
proud of
favorite
that,
cover.
actually.
Yes.
Great shot.
That was a great shot. But that is an important thing. And you're can you tell us that story you told me was about you roll into the boardroom and you've got an easel with a rendering of a Top Fuel car with the No Fear logo all over it. And I think they said something to the effect of like, Tony, love you, but we don't sponsor machines. We sponsor athletes. Right. And it kind of introduced you to a whole new world. Can you take us through kind of some of that? Because that's exactly what you're talking about. Like, I think Joe Maynard, they want to be associated with you. I mean, Top Fuel is important, but I think they would support you in whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah, that's very true, man. The No Fair deal is just funny. It's exactly what happened. I sat there and they said, we'll put our name on your helmet, but that car doesn't have any fair. It's a bunch of carbon fiber and metal and Goodyear tires, man. There's nothing that thing could be scared about. I said, you're scared. And I said, yeah. I said, but I can act like I'm not. Just a little bit of money, And it was the beginning of the time. I drove a jet car back in that day. It was one of those things where the athlete's the one that has to sit up in that seat and push through the fair and get it done. And I think that's very important. Each person you deal with, like the Army, we couldn't write the same script and send it to a Budweiser and say, here's our proposal, because you apparently all want the same thing. They definitely don't. What the U.S. Army wanted was to recruit. What Skag Power Equipment wants, and everyone thinks, is to sell mowers, but that's not all true too. They want to always sell mowers, but they want to recruit for people that work on lawnmowers, man. They can't get enough employees. It's the struggle of the world. So for people out there putting sponsors together, remember, it's not just the product. It's about the people, the employees. It's about the thought process on what it takes to make those things, how to maintain those things. If you can't service a lawnmower, you're not going to be able to sell one, because people don't want something they can't get fixed. It's an important thing, man. I've been saying it forever, man. Specifically, think about your sponsor. Think about what they would want, and write in script in detail how you're going to help them in every aspect. Because it's no longer give me $4 million. I'll go out and look at pretty face and go out on a racetrack. It's how am I going to make this so that you can't afford to not do it.
100%. And that's fantastic insight that I don't think we can say it enough. And it's so important to be willing to do the interviews and put yourself out there and do all the media, because there's a lot of different ways to serve those relationships. And it's, for me personally, it's exciting to see. Like, I know that there's I can understand that people like the consistency of like you, like let's just say in a perfect world, you're driving an orange and black Skag car every weekend, and you kind of, and I think when those opportunities present themselves, you have to lean into it. But like speaking of Leah Pruitt, I have no problem seeing her car look different every weekend because she doesn't. You know what I mean? In those relationships, I think it's a big move for our sport, for these, not every driver, but for a multitude of these drivers to be able to pull that off and represent a slew of brands and a slew of different partnerships. That's an important thing. And I hope we see more of it. I'm curious, a couple things, Tony. When you look at the competitive environment right now, I think about the people you had to go through. I mean, Brittany Forrest, Justin Ashley, Sean Langdon, well-known, great, a legend, an outlaw legend, Scott Palmer in the opening round. You've seen it all, right? I mean, you've won them so many. It's 86 races. It's almost hard to fathom. What do you make of like the competition right now? Like you've seen them, all the greats. You've raced against a majority of them right now. Like say the class of 2002, the Top Fuel class of 2002. Is this as good as it's been?
Absolutely, it's outstanding. You don't get up anymore and look at second round. You don't get up and look at third round. And there was a time where you look down the ladder. You had a car that was a 10. Nobody was going to catch you till whether you made a mistake,
Right.
Or later in the rounds, when everything crept up. Now we have no idea what's going to happen. Back in '99, the first championship we won with Dan Olson, I hadn't won a race yet. And we went to Indy, and it was Amato, Bernstein, Herbert, Selzy. I was me, and everyone's like, who's that dude? There were 10 people that showed up at Indy before the countdown, 10 people that could leave with the points lead. That was an insane year. But then after that, we started to gain, right? Dixon goes out and has a run. Selzy has a run. We have an epic run, and it was just, we were running, and then everyone was fighting for second. But that 99 year was special. And that, we got our first win there against Scott Collette, actually, in Dallas.
Wow.
And man, so that was a great year. There hasn't been as many like that until these last couple. And I think we're seeing a really, and it's weird because you always silly season. This crew chief moves, this guy goes over here. Everyone's kind of stayed intact, mostly, right? Alan Johnson went over to Coletta's, but mostly it stayed intact. And the people have found their people. They're running good. The races are outstanding. And who wins ultimately are the fans that pay $60 to come out and watch. What I love hearing, and I've heard it, people come up and go, I paid $60. I feel like I owe more money. That's when you're doing it right. That's when you're doing it. But I've lived some of those moments that make people want to pay more. I mean, there's been a couple final rounds and a couple, championships decided by just the last runs. You guys have watched it. And I want those moments to go down. I want people to put on the wall. Best thing I ever saw at a race was this. And
was the run, your run.
Special.
That has to be the number one. I mean, to your point about the championship one on the final pass of the final race of the season,
needing to set a world record to pull it off,
but not go too fast.
But not go too fast
to not the run owed the NHRA more money that weekend.
My dad gave me the best analogy, and I actually wrote about this early on, and I kind of stole it from him. But he goes, Wes, can you imagine? It's the ninth inning, 2 outs, bases are loaded, and Mark McGwire has to hit a home run between 425 feet and 400 feet. Not only does it bases loaded, full count, and he's got to hit. He can't hit it 430 feet. He's got to hit it 425. But the all the stars and moon that had to align to pull that. I still think it's the single greatest moment in the history of drag racing.
I'll never forget Coletta's face when they showed him after that. I mean,
that's a tough one,
Doug, and everything that those guys have done. But that said it all when they cut to him and showed his
heartbreaking.
Face. Yeah,
it's heartbreaking. Right?
It really was, and that's the type of shit. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the type of stuff you don't recover from. It's amazing that Doug has stayed out here, and I honestly hope we get to see him in that leather jacket on that stage with the spark, because he deserves it. Yeah. I think he's one of the best drivers out here. Mm-hmm. But it is crazy because those are that's very difficult to recover from. I mean, that's like, it's very similar to like the Warriors being up 3-1 in the NBA Finals against the Cleveland Cavaliers and losing it, squandering it. Not squandering it, but it's just crazy when those sports moments happen. Oh my goodness. Sometimes I get frustrated when we spend so much time looking back, but that's a special one. Tony, do you think like right now in this environment that we're in with Top Fuel and Funny Car, and we've obviously seen the ebbs and flows of car count and participation, but for what we lack in quantity, I truly believe we've made up for in quality. But what do you see like on the horizon? Like obviously this deal with Joe Maynard and Joe and Kathy Maynard is very fresh, and I'm sure there's still multiple pieces that are being figured out and what the future looks like. But a two-part question. A, do you feel comfortable, like yourself as a driver, that this is going to be something that stands the test of time? And two, being that you've got a new team owner and you've got some new sponsors, do you feel that there's a good opportunity for other people? I mean, do you think Top Fuel and Funny Car has some room to grow right now?
Absolutely. And I think hopefully what we want to do, what I know Joe and Kathy want to do, and Joe's son, Joe Jr., the helicopter pilot, it's about, they sponsor some other cars, and they would like to take some of the alcohol dragster drivers and as they win their, whatever their region or maybe a championship, to get them a license in our car, and just to get the opportunity that they may not have to be able to watch them, hand pick who you want to be, whether it's my replacement in 5 or 10 years or a second driver. We don't know where we want to grow to. I personally love having one car. I wouldn't mind 2, but I never wanted to be an 8-car team. It's too much. It's convoluted. It's just a lot of stuff. I don't know how my dad did it. I remember when he used to wear all them different shirts. Remember that? He popped up. I'm looking around for a phone booth. I was sitting there last night. I'm like, hey, how do you do that? I'm sitting in a car. I'm watching him.
I liked when he transitioned to the camp shirt with like 44 logos on either side. That was probably my favorite Don Schumacher look.
We had a lot of sponsors, a lot of teams. But what my dad did is so exceptional, because he built this big old team, and then as drivers left and started their own teams, he's created an Antron. He gave Antron the gift of starting a team, and the Lee and the Tony Stewart obviously has all that money and can put that together. Epic dude, great for the sport, and he knows all the sponsors, so he's going to bring some things in. We're starting to see things trickle in that we never had before. But my dad did that. He started that with allowing those guys to go off and do their own things. We had a lot of people under our umbrella, and as they were leaving, I think my dad was a little hurt. He's like, why would they want to? And I said, well, most people want to own their own team. I'm the only guy never wanted to own a team. Just didn't want to.
I find that interesting because you're right. Like, I think everybody, they say good help is hard to find, right? That's like especially in this day and age. But I've found, we've been in business here at DI for almost 16 years, Mike. And it's like one of an equal challenge is keeping good help, because a lot of, like, I always say there's like 3 types of people, right? There's rock stars in training, and worker bees. And it's okay. You need all of them, right? But the biggest trouble is you get yourself a rock star in training, and you have to recognize that these are enterprising young folk that probably are going to want to do their own thing someday. And it's tough to kind of like table your emotions and go, this is going to happen. Because if I was Don Schumacher, I'd be a mad mother trucker. I mean, just being honest, but I also understand it. I get it. It's
the
totally
curse of having the best people. Like Tony said, they had all the sponsors, all the best team, all the best equipment. And when you've got all that, to your point, Wes, about, retaining the best help, they're going to want to flee the nest. It's sort of like empty nest syndrome or whatever. You raise awesome kids and then they go off and live their own lives. And it's kind of the same situation.
And you think about the economy your dad created, right? Have you thought about, like, he created an environment where drivers, and I don't mean to like spill the beans or talk out of turn, but like just between us 3 and the however many other thousands of people who watch this thing, he created an environment where drivers are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. He created an environment where crew chiefs are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know that everybody understands that. Like, that is, he and John Force Racing, I think by and large, created that environment. And you think about, Alan Johnson going on to do the things that he does and flying to these jets or flying to these races on a private jet. And I don't know that people recognize the economy that's been created. And it wouldn't have happened more than likely without the Don Schumachers of the world.
Yeah, and the John Forces. It takes 2 of them to make prices go up. Remember that.
Yes.
So, we watched Mike Neff go back and forth, Guido, like the driver, the crew chiefs, and I don't think too many drivers have bounced back and forth between them.
No.
But yeah, I mean, we go out there and we have a value, and what our value has been hurt by is the fact that the cars were the stars for so long. They did that on purpose years ago to make sure drivers didn't get paid too much. I will tell you this: I enjoy getting paid a decent salary to risk my life in those cars, but nor did I ever need to make millions of dollars. I look at the NASCAR guys. I think some of them are jerks. I think you overpay an athlete to do what they love, and they talk too much. Most of us would do this for free, but don't tell Joe Maynard that. Just
just between us.
Just between us. We love what we do. We love being here. It is consuming. It takes 250 days of our life per year. I mean, it's not like we can go get another job and do this. You know what I mean? So we got to get paid something, but we do this because we absolutely are in love with these machines. We're in love with the fans. We absolutely want to be here. And, a Formula One driver, outstanding, making $100 million a year. I get why they do a TV show about them, and I get why they don't do it about me. It's hard for me to show my weekend vacations when I don't get to take any. Those guys run a race, they hop on their plane and they fly to NASA, and you know what I mean? We can't do that. We're not paid like that. It's just not what it's about. But it also is the reason that the fans can come in the pits and understand us. Because we're not no different. We just got lucky, and we get to drive these beautiful race cars. I say lucky. Most of us fought our way into it, but none of that matters. Like, this is a gift of a life. It really is to be able to do what you love, to be able to do it with a group of people that can win on any given Sunday. It's just a special thing.
Well, speaking of that group that you're winning with and the continuity that team has had, what are you seeing from your team over the last race or two, especially this past weekend, as far as how you guys are gelling, coming together, performances picking up, and what do you see for your team going into the countdown?
Well, that's good. I think we'll make it into the countdown. We were 100 points out. We're 10 points out with a car that's running a lot better, but we are not running like a Brittany Force. I mean, that car is 60 foot. And I watched Torrance 60 foot in 8:14 last week or the week before. Just stupid number, 8:14. So we're still not there, but we're heading in the right direction. I will win rounds. I will win races, and we will collectively get this together. What I see though is a bunch of 20-year-old kids on my team, young. Most of them had never even held at Wally before Sunday, and it was fantastic. I mean,
that's awesome.
To me, you can lead with an iron fist. You can. You need to show up for work, or you can lead like I like to lead by staying positive, making people want to show up early. And that's what my guys do. They want to be nowhere but around us, racing those cars and working on them endless hours to figure it out. Because none of those guys want to get beat first round. Those guys work so many hours. It hurt me to watch that go on. I already get paid. But these guys, man, they work really, really hard. And not getting those bonuses, it hurts them, So it was so exciting to watch that car go out and do what it did. Earned a few of those rounds, but really, it's the only reason I drive them like that is because they give me a car that goes straight, that works well. I can pedal it. I can do what I want. I broke one in half in Denver. They cut it in half on Saturday night. They shipped it, drove it to Indy. It was rebuilt, and it was on the racetrack in Sonoma Friday morning. Nobody works harder than our car. Our drivers, our teams, our people.
So, I can't imagine how rewarding it was to seal the deal. I mean, what was your what did Joe Maynard and the gang say? Did you guys party like rock stars Sunday night? I mean, we would have.
I took a red eye home. I was so tired. But it was an incredible. The look on all their faces, they were stunned. To go out as a team owner, a new team owner, and win your first race, I don't know if it's ever been done before. It was, if it has been done, it maybe someone like Alan Johnson starting a team, or Selzy the first time, but they already had a team, So
right.
And we didn't make changes. Let's face it. I mean, Todd Okahara came in on Sunday. He was sick. Phil Schuler was helping out. Mark Denner, our assistant crew chief. Those three got together, and the car just got a little better. When you shake or smoke the tires, you're only this far off. You're not that far. We're never that far off. So when they start to get a handle on it, and they go, oh, and they can start really stepping it up here, stepping it up there. We're just going to get better and faster right now. And I will guarantee you, there's not all the drivers that wanted me back for the sport. I guarantee they don't want me to start running good. They're happy I'm there.
You're
but we're
probably
good.
right about
we're
that.
We're good. And when the pressure's high and it has to happen, that's when we seem to be the best. So I'm not sure why. It's very, very lucky, I guess, that, because Colette is an amazing driver. I could never consider myself a better driver than him. I think we are brutally even in most everything we do, yet we've had so much more success. And it just is unbelievable because I didn't do anything different. I didn't wake up and say one more prayer. I guarantee he prays as hard as I do. So what makes someone go out and get that kind of luck? What makes them always put something together that is successful? I don't know, man. I'm just thankful it's me. People always go, you've won Indy 10 times. I go, yeah, but I never won Atlanta. They go, well, who cares? You won Indy 10 times. I go, I guess that's right. I'll take that swap, So you find a track you're good at. And, we've been lucky. I mean,
well, Seattle's one of those. Seattle's a track. I think it's 7 times in the final round in Seattle.
Yeah.
And you guys
really?
qualified the best that you have for the season so far, third qualifying position. What is it about Seattle for you or for your team that seems to bring out the best in you?
I don't know. And if I had to spend time thinking about it, I'd lose my mind because we've won it 5 times, more than anyone. Me and Antron were at 4 coming into this race. It's just we have success there. I don't know. It's not an easy track to get down. It never has been. There used to be a time when the right lane had a crack in it. And you had to drive. You had to keep it to the right. It was just insane. Some of the things. Well, Chicago had that. Joliet, the right lane had a gouge that was about 7 inches. We showed up there one year and we tested driving around that crack. And we got put in the right lane in the finals and drove around that crack and won it. So I guess it's situational awareness. Knowing where the problems are, what the situation is, when you have to be on your game. And if I could say if there's anything that is our strength, it's probably we're very good at having situational awareness where we know when it has to happen.
And that's veteran experience. And Seattle always comes at the tail end of the Western Swing, the most grueling 3-week stretch on the NHRA tour, where a lot of wheels fall off a lot of wagons along that way. And I think it takes that veteran experience to show up to that last event of the swing and have success. I think everyone and every part is worn out by then.
Yeah, we're beat down. Cars are broke. Pieces are broke. You've done everything. And for us, we had lost first round at 2 of them. So you didn't come in with just a plethora of confidence. However, when I did, I got up in the morning on Sunday and I said, I have this weird feeling we're going to win this thing. And I told everybody. And I go, I'm not going to flicker the ball. I'm just going to roll in stage, man. I'm just going to drive like I love it because it doesn't really matter what lane you're in. Like both lanes, you can win out of both of these. So we went out, we did what we do, we won the race, and every now and then I get those thoughts. I really hope I have those thoughts a lot the next couple of races. A lot.
I hope you do too, man. Hey, and I appreciate you being so gracious with your time. Someone's at the door. Tony, do you have 2 more minutes?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I was going to ask, just right now, I've talked to a handful of drivers that feel like they're, people are starting to chase Brittany's performance. And it seems like we're seeing some people maybe not get lost, but get out of their usual routine or whatever, chasing those crazy numbers. Are you seeing that too?
Well, I'm not trying to, we can't even try to go after their numbers. What we got to do is try to win the round and race the racetrack. They're all going to run out of clutch this at some point. All crews do. Parts are really hard to get right now, and I think the battle is going to become real soon.
Is that where the difference is? Is it in the bell housing? Is it clutch? Because it seems like everybody's obviously got a lot of power, but is that where you think that they're making where the difference is right now between their program and everyone else's?
Well, I think David Grubnick is spectacular. Max Savage, those guys are just as good at the clutch right now as anyone out there. And Torrance isn't having that much luck, but they got a great program too, man. They're just a little beat down. What you'll start to see and what we can do to Britain, the only way to go out and win these things is to beat them down a little bit. You start winning in stupid ways where they start doing mistakes because you're not going to outrun them if they make a good run right now. We haven't run over 316 or 320 miles per hour this year. We need to get back in the mid 330s. We're a little off, but if we can start knocking them down, and we've done it before where you start breaking them down, they start making mistakes. That is probably our forte. I will start breaking them down. When we start running good, they'll start doing things wrong. I thought I had them go. I may have beat them last week because we've been so slow. She's trying to slow the car down just to slide it down. But any way you can win, any way you can do it, you got to make them make changes they don't want to make.
I agree, man. Well, hey, Tony, incredible insight, dude. Thank you so much. It's been, I can't believe this is the first time you've ever been on the show. This seems long overdue. So thank you. Seriously. Last thing, and we'll let you go. Lots of technology coming into the sport. You see, Tony Stewart Racing's got dedicated track prep people, brought Kurt Johnson on to evaluate the racetracks. Toyota obviously pouring a ton of money in with all these R&D and their all their machinery and all these army of people down around the starting line. What's your take on that influx of technology? Is that a good thing?
I think it's a great thing. NHRA is always going to come up with rules to try to slow us down. It's our job to think one step ahead. This is a drag race. We're going to win and lose by 10,000ths of a second. Every little bit of every piece of that machine makes a difference. So Toyota, they're doing a great job. We're not a Toyota car right now, but it's really nice to see them out there putting that much money in there. And throughout the generations, it's changed who's putting the technology out. But there's always someone smart. There's always someone helping out. Like when we designed our canopy, Purdue University jumped up and said, "Let us work on this thing." And it's saved lives. It's a great product. So always new technology. It's what our sport's based on. The whole point of drag racing is go quicker.
100%, Tony. Well, hey, man, thank you so much again for the insight. It's been great to have you on here, and I hope that we get to do. Oh, did he freeze up? Did we lose him? No, there he is. No, he's back. Okay,
I just don't
Tony.
move, man.
Just doesn't move. Rock solid, man. Thank you so much, Tony. I appreciate the time. We look forward to seeing you. I am actually going to come up to Brainerd for a couple of days, so I'll see you in a few weeks. All right. Thank you for everything. Congratulations on the success, and I hope we're talking again soon, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, buddy. Oh my goodness, man! That's crazy to think about getting to talk to Tony Schumacher on here. Don't you think?
Again,
Mike? Do you pinch yourself at all?
Great interview, great insight, tons of talk about sponsors and some of the inner workings of some of the super teams that he's been a part of, and you're not going to get that anywhere else. So I'm glad to sort of be able to provide that platform for Tony to talk about that stuff. And he even mentioned that while he was talking as well, that shows like this is the only platform where you can do that, and how important it is that we have those conversations.
I enjoy getting to know these guys a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't think historically there's not been a ton of ways. And I got to give some credit to the NHRA, because I thought the TV broadcast this past weekend really strong. I mean, it just seems like it's rapidly evolving. They're trying things like the staging deal. You can just see, like, I'm kind of hot. I'm kind of warm on that deal, but I just love to see the effort to do something different, to add some flavor to it, to add some color. We talked right here on this program about how to add more statistics and more stats and today, Junior.
Man,
more
you're right.
Things like that.
And I feel like those cinematic intros and things have to set the stage, especially when you're on Big Fox and you've got like an NFL lead in or a NASCAR lead in or following or whatever the case may be, that if we're going to do this, we got to NHRA and drag racing as a whole has got to put its best foot forward for this, wide audience that we're reaching on this broadcast network. And they're doing a hell of a job with those. I actually think that they've won some kind of awards for those intros that I think Brian Loans typically does a voiceover.
What was it called? What is the name of it?
I forget what it is.
I can't remember what the name of those awards are.
Yeah, it's something significant in the TV industry.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, real quick, before we move on to our next guest, I want to remind you guys that each and every episode of The Wes Buck Show is brought to you by FlowRacing.com. If you're a drag racer or a drag racing fan, you got to get on board with Flow Racing. The world leader in sports live streaming, Flow Racing provides unlimited access to drag racing's biggest events, like Donald Long's Lights Out, No Mercy, and Sweet 16, every stop on the PDRA and NMCA tours, Funny Car Chaos, World Cup Finals, Streetcar Super Nationals, and much, much more. I believe this with every ounce of my being. The platform provided by Flow Racing is changing the sport of drag racing for the better, and there's no limit to the good they can do here. So log on to flowracing.com today to join the movement. Mike, I guess I'm going to have to save my IHRA hot take for a little later in the show. I'm going to make everybody kind of wait. I got some opinions to slew around, but I do want, okay, it's called Josh Hatchett just texted me. Thank you, Josh. It's called a Telly Award that the
Telly,
NHRA
that's
won. A Telly Award. They got 2 silvers and 4 bronze Tellys. That's 6 awards for the NHRA broadcast. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know? I'm glad that Josh
Absolutely.
is watching the show. He can really help me with my stats, and so I don't
Oh, yeah.
butcher everything.
Josh makes us look smart.
He does make us look smart. Speaking of looking smart, a verbose, well-spoken young man about to join us. Ladies and gentlemen, a massive moment for Troy Coughlin Jr., the entire Jags family. I talked about it to start the show. To see this young man add to the legend that is the Coughlins in drag racing, really, really special moment. Can't say enough about it. Felt extremely long overdue. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the one, the only Troy Coughlin Jr. What's up, buddy?
What's going
up,
on,
TJ?
fellas?
I'm
Thanks for
moving
having
him
me
to the
on.
middle. I'm moving him to the middle.
There you go.
Right
There we
between
go.
us. What's up, man? Congratulations. I have to ask, did you think this was going to potentially elude you forever? I mean, was there ever a moment that you started? Now, be honest with us, Troy. I'm putting you on the spot. Like, was there ever a moment you thought, shit, this isn't going to happen?
There were dog days, yes. There were lots of dog days, and whether you were having a rough day on the simulator or having a rough day at the races or testing, and yeah, there were days where I thought, man, is this going to come, or, a day of bad luck, or, sheesh. But here we are, due to the hard work at everybody at Elite Motorsports, and we, those guys parked the old Jags.com Chevrolet Camaro right in the checkers.
It was a fantastic thing to see. I know it was great. Like, I was so excited for Kyle Bates, Buddy, Kelly Murphy. Can you talk? That's a tight-knit group that have been married to that yellow and black car for a long time. Can you give some insight just to, I mean, their NHRA actually put out a video this morning that was chill-inducing, of you on the top end talking to the team and hugging Erica and talking to Richard Freeman, and but specifically talking to Kyle Bates and talking to Kelly Murphy. What's that group like? I don't know that I've been around a lot of drag racing, but that's a clique right there. You guys are thick as thieves.
It's pretty tight knit. It's more than a team. It's a family. It's a unit, and it's very exciting. And that's what makes it fun to win. And that's what makes me want to win. That's what makes me want to be the very best that I can be. And it's very majestic to win for a group like that. It's beyond winning for yourself. There's more to it than just wanting to turn on 4 win lights for your own gratification. There's more to it than that. So yeah, it's extremely impressive, and it's an absolute blast for the passion that they have and the love that they share for each other and for the game itself and drag racing. And we're so lucky and blessed to have each other. And, I can't wait to go to Topeka. I mean, I'm counting down the hours.
Because that's what I was going to ask next is, like, does this feel, because it's not like you guys have been a mile off. Like, you've had your moments, of course, and a lot of race teams have those moments, but it always felt like you were a tick away from being a real thorn in everyone's side. Do you get the sense amongst the group that this was that breakthrough moment, like that, okay, we broke through, the monkey's off our back, now we can just go win all these sons of guns?
Well, I think you approach every race the same. I think you stay calm, you stay focused, you enter every race the same. You fill out your tech card, you put your pants on, you go race. But you want to win them all. I mean, you absolutely want to crush them, and especially our group. They're Team Yellow. They're very passionate. I mean, we call Kelly Murphy Pitbull for a reason. He's tough. And we need to turn on win lights to keep our Pitbull a happy Pitbull. We want a happy Pitbull. So, yeah, we need to get in there and crush them. So we want to keep going. There's no honeymoon about it. We want to keep cracking them.
Well, I'm glad to hear. What do you make of, we talked a little bit with Tony Schumacher just a moment ago about how at various times in the past throughout, and this is, this is just the reality of the situation throughout the course of the history of drag racing, specifically like the modern era, there have been moments where the fields have been really stacked and there's a lot of great drivers, but there's also been moments where there's like, you would hear the thing like Tony was saying, you start looking at who you might have to run in round 2 or who you might have to run if you make it to the semis or when you make it to the semis. I'm curious, do you see it the same way Schumacher does, that like this is as good of competition as maybe has ever existed? Like there may have been moments in the past when there was 40 cars showing up in pro stock, but I mean, there's 16 to 20 really good can win the race cars right now. Do you sense that?
Oh, definitely, especially in pro stock. I mean, I would say at least 16 to 18 really good pro stock entries right now, and really good capable cars that are making a lot of really good power. And I would say that there's definitely no gimmies in pro stock. You have to be on point every single run, whether you're making a qualifying run or you're in the third round of eliminations. You have to be completely focused and on your game.
What was it like racing Erica? Like, of all the people, I look
Well,
at
having
who-
to go. Well, you had
I
to
mean,
go
having
through
to
Greg
go
first,
through, holy
and then
crap.
you got to go through Erica. I mean, two of the greatest to ever do it, and the margin of victory, 1/10,000th of a second. It's like it was just meant to be. But especially after the runner up in Phoenix earlier this year, what did that feel like to go through? Two of those elite drivers to get your first win.
Well, 0001, that's definitely exciting, and it's great fate. But wow, to run Erica, your teammate, is just a true testament to how awesome the group is and how fantastic of a job that Kyle Bates and Jake Harrison, everybody does in the engine shop, between Kendall and really everybody there at the shop, all the shops at Elite Motorsports. They do a great job. There's a lot of passion there. So
considering everything that you've driven Top Fuel, you've done all sorts of sportsman racing, you had a stint in Pro Mod, there seemed to be a real joy and passion from you. Is Pro Stock, does it feel like home for you? I mean, was this always the goal, or have you just found this to be the home, or was this the goal all along?
Oh man, it is home. It doesn't feel like home. It is home. It's what I was born around. I watched my dad do it. My Uncle Jake did it. Uncle John and Mike ran the Pro Stock trucks, which were really fun to watch, the small blocks. Just grew up around it. That's what you did in the summer times. You rode in the rig to the races when school was out, and you followed it. I was a fan for so long at the fences. I mean, ask Woody. He'll tell you all about it. I got kicked off the starting line constantly. So I've
been there, man.
For it. I'm one of those nerd geeks that just loves to be there and wants to compete. It's just for the love of the game.
And you got wins in 4 classes now: Pro Stock, Top Alcohol Dragster, Super Comp, and Super Gas. That's probably a pretty short list of people to have a win in all 4 of those classes.
Well, I've been surrounded by absolutely wonderful people between here at 131 Jegs Place here in Delaware, and great people at McPhillips Racing. And just very lucky, very blessed to have great people with great equipment and a lot of good times.
It's an incredible thing to have watched unfold over the course of time. And you mentioned Woody and like what about the Jegs? What was the homecoming like for you? I take it you're checking in from 3 Jegs Place there in Delaware, Ohio. Was it a hero's welcome when you arrived home in Ohio?
A lot of nods, a lot of attaboy.
A lot of nods.
We've been doing this for a long time. You have to realize we've been doing this since 1960. So this is. I mean, there are Wallies everywhere.
Oh yeah, we got the full tour last year
Uncle Jeg's
from Woody.
Damage.
They're
in the
everywhere.
Wally department. So between Jag, John, Mike, and Dad, they've done some damage in the national event department. I'm going to say 128 or 9 national event wins. So they're. I got the nod and the attaboy and which is amazing. It's.
I would have wanted a banner. I would maybe like some fireworks. I think that's not too much to ask. I mean, because that's the thing that I get fired up about. There are people who have literally burnt up everything they have chasing the Pro Stock dream, right? I mean, this is a class that chews people up and spits them out. I mean, it's an incredible thing, and I hope and I know it's not lost on you because you're a student of the game. You appreciate the history. You recognize how far this deal has come, and to be the 71st winner. I mean, you think about how many people have gone drag racing and how many people have pursued, because Pro Stock, for the most part, Mike and I talk about this with our own fathers, that's like, no matter where you end up in drag racing, you probably wanted to be in Pro Stock. Like that's the dream, is to be mentioned in that group of people. And you're a winner in Pro Stock drag racing. And I don't know that it gets any harder than that.
It's a big block Chevy with 3 pedals. I mean, it's the coolest thing ever. You read about it in certain magazines, and it's extremely humbling. it'll knock you down just as fast as it'll pick you up. So that's why it's a humbling. Not only is drag racing a humbling sport, but pro stock is an extremely humbling class, and that's something Uncle Jag is, and my dad and all of my uncles have gone over and over and over with me. Is it's a humbling class, and it's not for the weak. It takes a lot of focus, and you really have to get into it and dig deep.
So what is your focus like headed in? We're staring down the barrel of the countdown. You hear a lot of people talking about testing early in the season, and none of this stuff really matters until you get into the countdown. You made a big move in the points. I think you jumped up from 12th to 7th in the points in the last 3 races. So
Just
you're
1
in
point out of 6th.
Yeah, 1 point out of 6th. What's the Elite Motorsports kind of team plan? Are you guys still experimenting with anything, or are we getting down to business where now we've got to do what we know to do and put our heads down and keep this going? Winning 9 out of 11 races so far this season, you do have to wonder, can you maintain that? Can the team maintain that?
I know they can. I know the engine guys are always going to be making music in the dyno room. So between the music and magic in the dyno room, I think that's definitely their goal. But as far as driving goes, I'm just, going to stay focused and relaxed and do my job and do my best to bang gears, let the clutch out, and try and turn on wind lights.
Well, we hope you get to, brother. TJ, I'm sorry, I always call you TJ. Troy Coughlin Jr. I don't know what the branding is right now. I didn't get a memo. But anyways, TJ, we're so happy for you, man. It's like I said, long overdue. I truly believe you've put in the time. You've done the hard work. And to see you getting to hoist that Wally in the winner's circle in Seattle was, I think it was special for a whole lot of people, man. Congratulations. Thank you for your time today. And we look forward to seeing you in the winner's circle again soon.
Hey, definitely appreciate the invite, and it's an honor to be on the show. It's a great show.
Thanks, brother. We'll talk to you real soon, okay?
Sounds great.
Man, I think we're on a roll today. Feels like we're on a roll. JT's going to be pissed. We pretty much completely...
it's because JT's not here.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
Maybe that's what it is.
JT is lost on vacation somewhere, partying. We don't know. We hope
golfing, drinking, some combination of the two is probably what's going on, man. But hey, guys, real quick, I do want to remind you all. Let me go full screen here. That each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that perform and protect better than any other on the market. And they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. Mike, we got another one, longtime friend of Drag Illustrated in the green room right now. I do want to just thank everybody for being a part of this show. This is such a treat for Mike and I, for everybody at Drag Illustrated. We truly believe the crazy stuff that we say. When I say that we're spreading the gospel of drag racing, I mean it. When I say that drag racing is the great American motorsport, I mean it. And we really can't do any of this without all of you. We appreciate the views. We appreciate the comments. These things are like oxygen to us. So thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Whether you're a part of the Drag Illustrated family because you've been subscribing to the magazine since 2005 and you get it every month, or you follow us on social, or you listen to the podcast, or you read our email newsletters, or you check the website every morning, thank you, because this really is a privilege and an honor. Because again, I believe drag racing is the great American motorsport, and I want to put it in front of as many people as possible. And it's not even about getting it in front of more people. It's about making sure the people that do this, that burn up the highways and byways of America, chasing the drag racing dream, buying tech cards, doing all these, putting up awnings, breaking their back. I want them to get the recognition they deserve. They deserve to be treated like rock stars. They deserve to be treated like superheroes. And by God, we're going to do our best to do exactly that right here on the Wes Buck Show and Drag Illustrated as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said this a lot lately. I think this is the gentleman that's about to join us, I truly believe, is the best driver in all of the PDRA. I truly believe it. I think for sure top 5. This is a guy that is one of the few people, especially in a time when drag racing has gotten more and more technologically advanced. Mike, we talk about this all the time. I had a great conversation this morning with Scott Palmer that I'm looking forward to having again on the air next Wednesday when he joins us. But driving these cars, all the technology that has come into play, traction control, automatic shifters, torque convert, all the technology that's come into our sport. It's so cool to see a driver, a human being that can be a difference maker. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the one, the only PDRA Extreme Pro Stock star, Tony Gillig. What's up, buddy?
How you doing, Wes?
Do you like that intro?
You're that was great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I mean it, man.
I can back him
cool
up.
As a cucumber. This dude doesn't get rattled.
He's a big fan.
I'm a big fan, man. I truly believe in what you do out here. But you got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, you've just named a general manager, the new boss man at Flat Out Gaskets, longtime friend of ours, a mutual friend, Mark Adelizi. Unfortunately, we lost him, and I think people were a little bit worried what was going to happen with Flat Out. Can you take us through a little bit? I know that wasn't what we were planning on talking about, but I do think it's good for people to know that the business is carrying on.
Yeah, it was. I had spoke to Mark a few times prior to his passing about wanting to get involved here because I was done with the pizza business. I wanted to change, and nothing really happened. And then unfortunately, Mark passed away, and then I reached out to his brother who had acquired the company because of Mark's passing, and we discussed a few things. And I talked to a good friend of mine, Jeff D'Agostino, from the Fast Time days with Chuck Samuels and Nick Scavo, and he was interested. So anyway, long story short, Jeff bought the company, and he put me in here to help grow the business and do what I can do to make things better over here if possible.
Well, I'm actually 100% certain that you can do exactly that. You're also a part of, and congratulations on that, man. I think it's a really big deal, and it's hard to believe you're not in the pizza business. That's how I know Tony Gillig. But hey, man, I get it. Everybody evolves and things change over time. I'm curious, what do you make of the landscape right now with Mountain Motor Pro Stock? This is a group of racers. It's been an interesting thing the last several years, right? I mean, Mountain Motor Pro Stock for the longest time had what seemed like a permanent home within the IHRA. Things changed, like we were just talking about, and we saw the ADRL adopt Extreme Pro Stock for a while. Most recently, obviously, providing a home for y'all, the PDRA in Extreme Pro Stock as well. But we've seen the Mountain Motor Pro Stock Association. We saw it bounce around and some different things happening in the last couple of years. There have been a slew of Mountain Motor Pro Stock exhibition races within the NHRA. And I believe that that's what we're here to talk about a little bit today, is that you are part of this group of racers that are trying to make sure there's a quarter-mile option for Mountain Motor Pro Stock. And you guys got a new sponsor for the rest of the season to run, I think, 3 or 4 races. Is that right, Tony? Can you take us through the details?
There's 3 left. There was 4 scheduled this year. We had Bend, Virginia already, going to Brainerd, Indy, and then Charlotte. We have a presenting sponsor, yes. Sweet Leaf Stevia has come on board with the association to help us through the end of the season here, and hopefully have a great relationship with them, and that can proceed into next year, hopefully. But it's exciting to race the quarter-mile stuff. Obviously, the PDRA has been awesome, and we've had a place to park and race and give us a great race surface. And the people at PDRA are awesome. You know, the Franklins and Tyler. It reminds me of the old IHRA days. But the class is doing really well. The great group of guys, old IHRA guys that still love racing Mountain Motor Pro Stock, that are doing just that, and which have helped keep the class alive. And we had run 632 for a little bit there, and thought that this would be a better fit for us since we kind of had started Mountain Motor Pro Stock racing. So we made the jump, and so far it's been pretty cool. The quarter mile stuff's awesome. A lot of guys that do run Mountain Motor Pro Stock, there's a divided line. Like some guys just don't want an 8-mile race. But that being said, prior to NHRA adopting the Mountain Motor Pro Stock guys in recent past here, there was no place to race quarter mile with a big motor car. So either way, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I just love racing, period. So wherever they give us a place to race, like I said, PDRA has been great to us, and thank them for that. And also NHRA giving us a place to quarter mile race with 4 races this year so far on our schedule. So it's going to be cool. This new sponsor should be neat, and we're looking forward to finishing up the season, hopefully with a win on our part. But anyway, Mountain Motor Pro Stock wins, period, because it's an awesome opportunity for us to get ourselves in front of the NHRA fans, and it's helped the class as a whole, and it's helped us at PDRA too. NHRA obviously is the cream of the crop, and but that being said, Our main series being PDRA with 8 events there, plus the Pro Stars we just ran. But we're running all of it, so it's cool. We're having a good time so far.
Is that the issue? Because it's one of the things, there's a couple things that I think are interesting to talk about when it comes to Mountain Motor Pro Stock. Because you talk about there's a division, right? There's the group that, the 8th mile guys, the quarter mile guys, but you've also got, the PDRA guys, you've got the NHRA guys. How hard is that to manage? Because I know that you're one of the guys that tries to connect the dots, that attempts to be the glue guy. There's a slew of you. Pat Norsha comes to mind from Ram Clutches, JR Carr. I mean, there's a lot of people involved in this, but I know that that's a real challenge because you're trying to serve everybody's individual needs. Because I do wonder, there becomes, at times, there can be too many options, right? So, I mean, how do you balance all of this? How do you make it work, Tony?
Well, it is difficult because I think some of the guys that race the class, depending on budget, maybe going to the 8 races with PDRA, going to 4 NHRA races with Pro Stars. That's 13 events. We're 5 races short of an NHRA schedule. So it's a lot to take on. So I think some guys just don't have the time to get away. Nobody races PDRA Mountain Motor Pro Stock for a living. So it's what you can do. Obviously, there's great guys in the class. Like I said, JR Carr, Elijah Morton, John Montecalvo, the Placinos. Everyone's committed to go racing. It's just sometimes logistics and or money can get in the way. And it is hard because some guys just want to race NHRA or they don't want to go to the East Coast. They might be Midwest guys. And a lot of our stuff being in Virginia or Galat or Budds Creek, that's all East Coast stuff. And if you're coming from where I'm coming from, it's 16, 17 hours to get there. And it's a lot of travel too. So with gas prices now and everything else and the way things are going, we're just trying to keep the class together and try to get our 8-car field filled for the NHRA. And we're close to filling a field in PDRA with 16 cars. We've been short a car or 2, maybe 3 or 4 tops, but the class is pretty healthy. It's been the best it's been in recent past. So it's I think it's on the right path. It's just a matter of there's new guys coming into the class as we speak. I know guys that have switched over from that are running 632. There's 2 guys that are probably coming to Mountain Motor Pro Stock that should be out there next year. So I think next year we'll see a full 16-car field in the 8th mile stuff, which would be awesome. And depending on our NHRA schedule, how that's going to pan out, got to be seen. But we'll be able to fill a field there too, which is huge, and it's a good boost for the class that we can fill the field and we're not short. I can't hear you, Wes.
One of the interesting things that has existed in Mountain Motor Pro Stock is kind of this gentleman's agreement not to let it get completely out of control, right? Not to let people have in-house engine program. Like, hey, let's keep this thing reasonable. Can you give us a little insight to that? Because we're starting to see it accelerate again, and you start getting all these new fresh faces in here and well-resourced teams and whatnot. It can change overnight. But has that been some of the magic of preserving this class, that, John Montecalvo didn't go out and buy a CNC shop on the East Coast somewhere and start developing his own cylinder heads and, to try to resist that? Do you agree?
Yeah, right now it's obviously the Mountain Motor Pro Stock stuff. Everything that's out there was a derivative of Sonny Leonard or John Kazi, because they were the mountain motor pioneers. Sonny was actually, and then Kazi got involved, obviously. But as far as that goes, I mean, there was a big topic of discussion early this year about people wanting to run a billet cylinder head. And it got everybody up in arms, because then it was going to turn into, okay, now the billet head's out there. Now you can bring in everybody that builds cylinder heads. They're going to jump in, and it's going to be the trick of the week. We all got spooked. Anyway, long story short, we kind of all decided like that's not going to happen. But as far as the engine programs go, we're with Kazi, and there's guys that are at Sonny's, and JR stuff's done by Frank Uliata, who's doing a great job. Elijah and Steve Boone have Mikey Allen and his father over there. So there's a good mix. You got Dwayne Rice with Ron Miller. There's a lot of engine builders out there that are running Mountain Motor Pro Stock. And I think since the motors are what they are, as big as they are, and no one's really going crazy spending money on R&D, we're pretty grouped up. Now, I have to say that Elijah Morton's been running real well, qualifying on top, as JR Carr has. So it looks like they may have a little advantage power-wise. We're still trying to get our act together on our side. We've had some success, but running the car up front, we've kind of struggled in places. getting a little aggressive, shaking the tire. But as far as the class goes, there's several options for engine builders, and I think it's healthy. You know, I don't think anyone's going to start a program on their own out of the clear blue sky right now. You can go to Mike Allen, Sonny will build your motor tomorrow. Kazi probably doesn't want to build any new motors. If you find some stuff that's out there that's for sale, that's sitting in someone's garage for the last 10 years, he would probably, I'm not speaking for him, but maybe take him on as a customer and just massage what's there. That's what we did. We found a motor on Racing Junk and took it to Kazi, and he just rubbed on it. And so it was a lot easier from him to just do that than start from scratch.
But don't you think that's like a magical thing, Tony? Like, because if you, my dad and I talk about this all the time. You look at some of these top sportsman programs that are crazy fast cars, and you mentioned Pro 632. I could be argued one of the unsung heroes of the PDRA. Man, there's some really fast cars there, really strong programs there. Don't you think that's part of the magic of Mountain Motor Pro Stock, that a guy can go buy a used car, a used engine, and then go race heads up on killer tracks with the words PS on the window? I mean, that's a huge. I mean, you and I come from a similar place, Midwest Pro Stock. I mean, these guys that were chasing the pro stock dream, to think about how attainable it is right now. No one's going to say it's cheap, but it's very attainable.
Sure, absolutely. That's the cool part too. We did the same. We did it. Found a motor. I bought that GXP, and Kazi looked at the motor just to make sure it was okay. It needed a crank, so we put a crank in it and sent it to the racetrack, and we won Galat with it. Every low qualifier, no, but we won the race, so it was pretty cool. But I mean, newcomers out there, Corey and Dylan Voss,
yes,
Ed Mahacek stuff. Took it to the racetrack. They're qualifying. They're running good. I know Jordan Enslin's in the process of building a Mountain Motor Pro Stock car right now. Sold his 632 car, and but yeah, it's cool. I mean, we had a motor that motor that's in our car was an old Richard Freeman Kazi motor from 2009 that Frank Giuliotto worked on with JR Car probably until about 2014. Then it got stuck in the corner, and but yeah, you can find a motor someplace, and I mean, that's the thing too. We've made more and more power over the years with these motors, but no one's out there knocking the scoreboards over in the 8th mile like everyone thinks we should be based on the power level. So we're trying to manage that, but yeah, it's a pretty cool deal. You couldn't go find a 500-inch motor laying around from 1998 and go out and run NHRA Pro Stock and qualify. You're nuts if you did that. But that makes the mountain motor stuff cool. You know what I mean? So I love it still. The carburetors are on them still. They got hood scoops on them. They're a blast to drive. And I've driven them both. And a mountain motor car is pretty cool. And
is it crazy when you look at like the landscape right now? You've been a part of the pro stock mix in one way or another. What, since the mid '90s?
Yeah, 90.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've met you in '97. I was like a kid. I was like 5 or something. I don't know. I mean, and I remember looking at you like with awe. The red and white Cutlass. Is it crazy to think about having been a part of this for so long and seen it through all its different iterations? I mean, when you look at pro stock, you know, whether it's NHRA Pro Stock or Mountain Motor Pro Stock and PDRA or in the NHRA, is it crazy to see how far this deal has come?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm fortunate that I've been able to run Pro Stock as long as we have. We raced and we quit and we've raced again. So, but to see this stuff still thriving, and a lot of the guys that we raced against back in the day are still doing it. Seeing new people come in is cool, you know, so. We raced back in the 90s with that Midwest Pro Stock deal. That was awesome. That's where we got started, and then started the IHRA stuff. That was awesome back then. And just we went NHRA racing, back to IHRA again. So it's just our thing. You know, I'm probably nuts that I'm not involved with some fuel-injected, blown turbo something. And I could probably do better for ourselves on whatever level, I'm not sure. But we're just diehard Pro Stock guys that just, we're going to do this till it's over. And we're having a blast, you know. So the technology for me, I mean, the MSD grid's like technology for me. I can move timing around and change my shift light or my shock shift. That's as far as I want to take any technology in a race car. So
do you think that's a good thing, though? You know, I mean, like, because I do wonder sometimes. I mean, we hear that a lot. Like, the cars have gotten so good, you know, that it has. I'm not saying it's. I think obviously very difficult, but it has changed. Do you like that it's still, like you said, carburetors, hood scoops, it's old school? Because it's not high tech. I mean, obviously this stuff is high quality stuff. It's the best stuff money can buy, but at the same time, it's it is a little more rudimentary than the, like you said, twin turbo, fuel injected, coil on plug. It's a different deal. But I think it's the hardcore race fans seem to really, I've seen it at NHRA national events because John DeFlorian and I had this conversation in Houston a couple of years ago. I mean, there was fans over there looking at this stuff. They get it. This is stuff they still understand, and it's stuff that they relate to.
Right. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, the cars are a mountain motor car and a 500-inch car are on the same playing field as far as everything but the fuel injection system. The internal parts of the engine, there's crazy stuff going on in there. Liberty transmission or Elenco or the clutches, depending on what size they are, it doesn't matter. They all do the same thing. So shock technology, all that stuff is really cool. The only thing that we're missing is the ability to tune fuel on a laptop. We can do timing with the grid. So there isn't a huge big difference between the two, just on the fuel side of it. But then again, like the carburetor, whoever invented that thing back in the day was a genius. It pulls fuel when it needs it. When the air's better, it's better. It's just when you get them right, they're good. So I mean, we're just stuck in, I guess, maybe the past, but it's also the future for us too. You can be competitive with a carburetor pro stock today, where NHRA went to fuel injection, and there's fuel injected motor cars as well. So I think it's the technology is there. It's a lot different than when I first started racing pro stock. We first started racing pro stock. We had one of everything, and we just tuned the clutch and the wheelie bar and the leave RPM, and you went fast. Now the trans is out. We're messing with the clutch. We're moving the 4-link. You're messing with carburetors. You're messing with timing. It's just it's a different deal, But back then it was, like I said, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was a lot easier. Now, when I first started 500-inch racing, we had one transmission, a 266 low gear G-force with a 486 rear in the car, a set of carburetors on it. And if I went from Bristol to Seattle, I didn't change the transmission because I didn't have one. It was clutch, leave RPM, and that was it. And it worked. How did it work? Because now you go someplace, what's the air? Where we going? What trans are we going to put in the thing? What are we doing with this? It's just, but again, it's exciting and it's a challenge. Even though it's just a carburetor pro stock car, it challenges us every run we make. And every time the clutch comes out, we learn something new.
I think it's an awesome thing because you make a great point. I mean, like you look at an NHRA pro stock team, they're changing transmission ratios every run, and you harken back to those days or where it's like, hey, we're running what we've got. Like, oh, it'd be great to put more low gear in it or whatever, but we ain't got anything in the trailer. So it is a crazy, but it's fun to hear. I mean, whenever you were racing with my dad a little bit, it was just to see the effort in the pits. Like, that's a cool thing to see, right? I mean, I have to say, I know that there's positives to the big automatic transmission movement because I do think, I remember Scotty Cannon being quoted as like, that's one less guy I've got to bring to the track, because I used to have to pay for a clutch guy or someone to help, and I understand there's positives to it. And if we overnight switched everything back to manual transmission and clutches, we'd probably lose a gazillion cars, right? Because it's hard to do. But man, there is a real reward that comes to being successful. It's something that's extremely difficult, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that stuff's got a place. I mean, all the like PDRA, Pro Boost, Pro Nitros cars, they're impressive. Those things are unbelievable. And but they're cool in their own right. And then we follow behind them with the clutch pedal and a stick shift and a set of carburetors that runs 4 O's in the eighth at almost 180 miles an hour. So everything has its place. And they're all, I appreciate all that stuff. Those guys do with a nitrous car or a blown car that runs 360s is unbelievable. I can't even imagine what those things feel like. I mean, I just driving what I drive is it's fast. Older I get, I mean, it's fast. So it's when I made my first quarter mile run at Virginia for the NHRA race this early this summer, I haven't been to the quarter mile since like 2006. And I stuck that thing in high gear and it charged for the finish line. I threw the chutes out. And I got out of the car laughing. I'm like, it was so cool. I was like, I can't believe how this thing runs the back half of the racetrack. I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the whole world. Super cool. But
it's cool to hear it, man. Oh, dude. Yeah. And to do it routinely, right? I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around. I've said that to the PDRA contingent, Tyler Crossno. We have very quickly become desensitized to how insane these cars are. I mean, the fact that all these side-by-side 4.0 finals and pro stock are 361 to a we aren't completely appreciating how absolutely bonkers this shit has become. And it's funny to hear someone as well versed in all this as you are, Tony, say something like that. Like, got out of the car laughing. Is it cool that after all these years you're still having an experience like that? I mean, because that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was concerned. You know, I had been on an NHRA racetrack and forever, and now you hear, okay, well, the tracks aren't prepped as good as our PDRA stuff, and okay, how's this going to go? We kind of laid up with the car a little bit early, and we suffered a little bit, but it went 6:30 at 2:24 on that run. The next day we were on about a 25 run, and then we had an ignition miss that we countered at half track, so I shut it off. But that thing just charged into the finish line. I think about it now. It's just, we got that in-car camera that we throw into the car in the steering column for it. It was just, that thing was in high gear, and it wasn't in high gear long, and the chutes were out, and it was just it was cool. So yeah, to be able to keep doing this at my age and still enjoy it. I mean, that's the thing too. You got to respect these things, but I still love driving the car, and I love the acceleration, and I love the speed. So until I ever got to the point where I'm like, you know what, this is too fast, I probably should stop. I haven't gotten there yet, but yeah, it's a pretty cool deal. I'm excited to keep driving this thing, and I'm looking forward to the rest of our PDRA season. We're doing well over there, and then running some of the quarter mile stuff, which is I haven't been to Brainerd since 2000. So
the place is different, man. It's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys up there. Last thing, Tony, and we'll cut you loose. Just could you give us your thoughts on the PDRA Pro Stars event? It was really cool to see the effort that went into trying to make that event special. I mean, the live bands, all the exhibition vehicles, the pageantry, having you guys up on stage, and the trophies. And is that do you like seeing those kind of special independent events popping up on the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, didn't know what to expect. It was our first Pro Stars. But I have to say, the entire staff of PDRA, Tyler, everybody that is involved, they knocked it out of the park. It was a super cool deal. We all had a great time. Just how they handled everything, how they put it all together, the way it was just going on stage and picking who's going to run who. And it was just, it was a cool deal. The pressure was off. There was no points implication. Winner take all, which is, we're all for that, and it's just, they did a great job, and I look forward to doing that again next year if they're going to have the Pro Stars again. Got to thank Summit for putting that together with the PDRA. They were a big part of that, and they're a big part of our program with the PDRA in general as a sponsor. So it was really cool. It was a great time, had by all. We got a little bit of rain on Friday, couldn't test, but in one day they got it all done, and a lot happened that day. It was pretty neat.
Oh, I mean, there was a good crowd, and like just seeing the footage start to, trickle out onto the internet of all the golf carts pulled up to the stage and all the people. I'm like, man, this is where our sport's got to go. I mean, we've been talking about this whole time, that you've seen it through many iterations, but this is people expect a lot in 2022. They expect to be entertained from start to finish. You can't expect people to sit and stare at a track or whatever with nothing on it. So doing all these extra things, I think that's kind of the model for success when it comes to putting on one of these events as we head into the future. It's exciting to see the PDRA. I was glad to see them win, right? You know what I mean? Like, God knows those guys have tried extremely hard, and to see them have it go their way, it felt good.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they needed that. I mean, the day was perfect. The weather was great, and we've been plagued with rain all season. And there's been races where I'm like, I see Tyler, I'm like, this poor kid he's working on 3 hours of sleep, and he's out there drying the track. And then our race at Virginia prior to the Pro Stars was brutal. I mean, we were complaining because we got wet. We're under the tower getting soaked, all of us that can fit under the tower. I was 2 cars back when it rained 3 times. It was like an omen. Every time I was 2 cars back, I put my helmet on, the sky opened up. I didn't put my helmet on. Didn't matter. It still opened up, and we got poured on. But and to watch those guys have to just keep struggling and dry the racetrack. And that place is long. So to dry that racetrack and make that race happen, and then we thankfully won the event. But my hat's off to those guys, Tyler, Tommy, and Judy, their kids, everybody that's involved with that whole program is just they're top notch, and they give us a great place to race. And it's like family. We're all, a lot of the guys that run PDRA, we're all businessmen, or like I said, no one's doing it for a living, right? And everybody gets it. and it's a pretty cool deal. I love racing over there. They're great people.
All the right reasons. You know what I mean? I think that's a group that's doing it for all the right reasons. Tony, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you in Brainerd. Congrats. I think this is a great news. Sweet Leaf, Stevia. Shout out to those guys. I've been saying this a little bit lately, and I maybe need to say it more. We've got to support these companies that are supporting us. It's an exciting thing to see new brands show up in motorsports, so it feels like a victory all the way around. Tony, we'll see you at the next one, brother. Congratulations.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks, buddy.
Take
no
care,
problem,
Wes.
man. All right, guys, I want to remind you real quick that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is brought to you by way of the gang at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality safety products, racing safety products, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits, gloves, and blankets, all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com and make sure you tell them we sent you. I'm actually, Mike, did I tell you that I'm going to Bonneville? I'm going to the Salt Flats this weekend.
You did, yeah.
Did I tell you that? I'm going to go out there with my
This
buddy
weekend?
Tommy Cunningham. Yeah, man.
Oh, okay.
Leaving on Sunday. Well, I'm leaving on Sunday. Going to go spend a couple of days out during Speed Week, the Bonneville Salt Flats with my buddy
Probably
Tommy
something
Cunningham.
worth doing if you're an automotive guy. It's
I
something
think
worth
so.
doing one time. It's like a pilgrimage you have to make.
I've never done it. I've always said I wanted to go, but it never really lined up or whatever. We start getting into August and September. It's hard to believe that it's already like the summer is winding down.
It's starting to get busy. It's going to get busy through the end of August, September, and October.
It's crazy.
Those are the racing months.
If you think about all the stuff that's going on, like we've got Salt Flats this weekend, then Brainerd the next weekend, and then, well, maybe in between that, we've got NPK and Tulsa, and then the U.S. Nationals are upon us. I don't know how Labor Day is already almost here. Really crazy to think about that. We're going to do, we've got to announce this. I don't know that we have, but we've got to announce that we're going to do the episode of our show the week of, I believe it's August 31st. We're going to be live from John Force Racing. We've been invited. Peak, the gang at John Force Racing have invited us to come out and do an episode of the show from John Force Racing in Brownsburg, Indiana. So we're super excited about that. I think Thursday night, you're ready for this? This is a big one, Mike. You're going to be really jealous.
I'm worried because I don't know about it.
No, you don't know about it. I've got invited to come sign autographs. You like that? They want me to come sign autographs at Cruz Pedregon's open house Thursday night. So I'll be at Cruz Pedregon's shop there in Brownsburg, Indiana, Nitro Alley. Really, really cool area. And Cruz's shop is super nice. So they're going to do an open house, I think, from like starting at 7 o'clock. You want to come?
I'll swing by there, bring a hero card or something.
I'm going to get some hero cards made. I know, father, business owner, right? I don't know. I don't have any like cool stuff to put on there. And I don't know if you noticed this, but my whole idea for doing the world's longest burnout, freaking Farm Truck and Asian beat me to it. Super bent about this deal.
Jeez, man.
I told you it was a great idea. I know. I told you.
Those guys.
For those that don't know, I literally bought an old, an 88, I think, 89 hatchback Mustang with a 302 in it and a 5-speed and a line lock. And I was hell-bent on doing the world's longest burnout because I thought there wasn't a Guinness World Record for it. I reached out to the New York office of the Guinness World Records, and I put together a plan to attempt to do the world's longest burnout. I went out, I did an 867-foot burnout in my my $5,000 Ford Mustang that I thought was important because I didn't want to do it in like a purpose-built race car. I thought the better message would be to show the world and the car culture in general, young folks, that you don't have to have a twin-turbo Lamborghini or a twin-turbo Corvette or a pro-charged Mustang to be a car guy and do something cool. You could literally save up your pennies mowing yards, go buy a $5,000 Mustang, and find yourself in the Guinness World Records. Unfortunately, the Guinness World Records, despite there not being an established record, I sent them the footage of the 867-foot burnout. Pretty proud of this, right? This is a long burnout, right? And it's especially a stick car that makes 80 horsepower, right? So, I mean, I put like 90 pounds of air in the tires, and just all but destroyed the thing, hung the rods out of it, trying to do this 900-foot burnout. That was my target. I send it to the Guinness World Records, and they want me to go 1,500 feet. And I go, where's the reference? Like, where did you just pull that number out of clear blue or out of the sky? And they did. They literally got on the internet, Googled around a little bit, and said, "Yeah, 1,500 feet seems like the number."
So yeah, longer than a quarter-mile drag.
I told him that. I said, "Dude, that's longer than we drag race. Like,
Right.
that's a long way." So, anyways, lots of stuff happened. I moved to Texas. There's been all this crap. COVID, global pandemic, kind of derailed me. I ended up selling the car back to the guy that I bought it from because his son wanted it. James Sisk, shout out, longtime Drag Illustrated photographer. James' son wanted the car back. I do believe it's got a rod knocking now.
Yeah.
My bad.
It might be in a little bit worse condition when they got it
It
back.
looks great because I lowered it. I put all the factory trim back on it, the factory badges. I put the Mustang, put some Flowmaster exhaust system with the tailpipes on it because I can't do Mustangs without tailpipes. They have to have the factory style exhaust on them. Like I said, lowered it, put a set of good looking wheels on it. I mean, it looks a lot, put a massive cowl hood on it because, America. And anyways, I sold it back. But now I get on the internet the other day, a couple weeks ago, Farm Truck and Asian with some blown Cadillac do a 1,500 foot burnout. So I don't know if it's like challenge accepted. And now we've got to build a burnout car. I don't know. I haven't decided exactly how I want to respond to it, but I think that would have been an awesome thing, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if did they get wind of that? Like, how did they know about the 1,500 feet thing?
I don't know. I think they reached out to the Guinness World Records people. You know what? They'll come to your house. It's interesting. So there's 3 kind of programs with Guinness World Records for anybody out there that wants to set one. There's 3 ways to do it. First is go set your record, photo document it, video document it. There's some steps involved. You have to provide evidence, right? Then you can submit that evidence to the Guinness World Records, and it takes a while, right? You can do an expedited evidence review, and I think it's like $1,000, $900. You kind of get to the front of the line, and they expedite the evidence review process, and you get if you deserve it, if you have achieved a world record, it kind of happens faster. Or there's an even higher level where you can just send them a check for 10 grand and they will come to you wherever you're at, and they will send judges that will review the evidence live and present you with your world record if you pull it off. So I was going to go for the expedited deal. But again, I did.
Fascinating, man.
It is kind of an interesting thing, right?
I never knew there was so much to the deal, but
yeah, man.
It's kind of interesting to see their business model about how they make money by,
and it's
facilitating records or whatever you want to call it.
For me, it's like I saw it as a PR opportunity. I thought, if we can snag the world's longest burnout, even if Cletus or somebody comes right along and scoops it away from us, it would be cool to have it for a moment, have the plaque on the wall, say that you did it. But massive PR opportunity. I mean, right? I mean, I'm actually surprised that it hasn't been a bigger deal that Farm Truck and 8, like, I'm surprised you didn't know they did that, and it's, I think they made some t-shirts. I think they need to pour the coals to it because I don't know. It's a big happening. Having a Guinness World Record, right? I think it's a big deal.
JT might try to go for the most beers consumed in one day record.
He's probably already got the record.
Get that expedited, get the proof out there. I'm sure he could save all the cans. And he's good at documenting. He'll video anything and everything. Cameras running 24/7 with JT. Yeah,
it's kind of an incredible thing what JT does. He's I think the rest of us are just jealous. Is that possible?
We are. Yeah.
We're just anyways, guys. All right, here we go. Well, the Drag and Drive in the comments. Let's do a little Q&A. Like, we got 13 minutes of Q&A, and I'll give my IHRA hot take. How about that? And we'll go back and forth on this a little bit. Huge news broke, I guess, really yesterday, earlier this week. It's been circulating for a hot minute. The people, multitude of people in the industry knew this was going on. For those that don't know, you can log on to dragillustrated.com right now and read a little bit about it. And there's, I believe, more information will be coming in the days and weeks to follow this announcement. But the IHRA, by all indications, has been sold to chassis builder, track owner, longtime member of the drag racing and high performance industry, Larry Jeffers, out of the St. Louis, Missouri area. Again, this has been big news, man. We got a tremendous amount of traffic to the website yesterday. I was like stunned by
Yeah,
it
and
because
a lot of the comments here in the chat as soon as we started up the show were what's going on with IHRA.
So
yeah,
for those that don't know, basically the IRG, who has owned the International Hot Rod Association for quite a while now, basically sent out a letter earlier this week to their track operators announcing that Larry Jeffers had agreed in principle, I believe, to purchase the IHRA and that they supported this transition. There was a couple of interesting notes in there. They talked about how there were some IHRA employees, former IHRA employees and former associates of the group that were perhaps
executives.
Yeah, defecting or going to try to start their own thing. But by all accounts, Larry Jeffers is the new owner of the International Hot Rod Association, man. And I'm anxious to see where this goes because for a couple of reasons. A, people have a really romantic relationship with the IHRA. I think the IHRA did a really good job for so long of really fostering a great relationship with their sportsman racer base. I mean, if you talk to anybody, you talk to track operators, a lot of the things that I would hear, like, why would you go with IHRA sanction over NHRA? There's a lot of similarities, a lot of overlaps. Almost all of them would point to the Summit Super Series and this strong sportsman program, the team finals, the everything that they did for sportsman racers, strong contingency program. People have a really, really, really romantic, like I said, relationship with the IHRA. They did a great job building that grassroots following, and then completely squandered all of that, all of those things that we just outlined over the course of like the last decade. It kind of
happened over time, yeah. And the whole romantic notion of IHRA, that was huge here in the Southeast. I mean, IHRA was born in Tennessee, here in the Southeast, and to me, IHRA was door car heaven in its heyday. And if you were a Mountain Motor Pro Stock guy or a Pro Mod guy, that was the place to race. And
from sea to shining sea. Like I remember conversation with Danny Rowe, West Coast guy, Southern California guy. He spoke of IHRA Pro Mod with such reverence. I mean, that's where Shannon Jenkins was and Scotty Cannon was and Mitch Stott. I mean, that was the place to be, like you said, for door slammer racing. And it was so weird to just see it erode so quickly. Right. And it was interesting.
Well, it changed hands. The IHRA changed hands 7 times.
7 times.
And this is going to be the 7th purchase of the IHRA. And I think every time it was something a little different. And when it was in certain hands, like Bill Bader's, the door cars and all that stuff were the focus. Then it changed a little bit when Clear Channel and
Feld,
came in. But that happened over time. And I think it was a little bit outside forces as well. I think that ADRL coming along, I think the growth of outlaw 8th mile pro mod racing really sort of accelerated IHRA's demise, at least from my perspective, which is, obviously heavily biased towards the pro mod perspective. But I think that the outside threat of those types of organizations, I think at a certain point, IHRA kind of just said, well, if that's what you guys want to go race, go for it. We're kind of tired of keeping up with the rules. We're tired of the quarter mile, all the things that were sort of happening in that, early 2000s time frame, I think led to the demise. And I also think that it's so interesting to think about how we talked about Mountain Motor Pro Stock kind of being in a time capsule or something, or kind of frozen to where you can go get some stuff from the late 90s, early 2000s and be competitive. And nowhere else does that exist in drag racing. And that stuff, all those, like Tony saying he hadn't ran quarter mile since 2006. I'm pretty sure I was there at that race watching him run that red Mustang, I believe, at the time. And I can remember that like it was yesterday. But that's kind of the same. You can go probably find that car, the engine, the transmission out of it, and go run it today, but they're running it on 8th mile for the most part. And I think that it's what has sort of allowed that class to separate itself. I actually talked about this with Brett Kepner, where every other class is sort of based on continually improving and evolving performance, but Mountain Motor Pro Stock is almost based on keeping everything the same and not improving that performance, because we've been talking about those guys knocking down the 3-second barrier for a decade, and
quite literally.
Yeah. to see where they still are. I think in one way, if you're hell bent on that evolution, that it's great, but that's what's kept that class alive. And I think that what they're doing with this NHRA Mountain Motor deal, and what they're doing with PDRA and the series that were running before that, is trying to get back those glory days of IHRA Mountain.
But that's
Motor
the
Pro
reason,
Stock.
and I want to say this because that's the point that I'm preparing to make, is that I kept using the word romantic because that's something that I see kind of permeate all of racing. Drag racing is where we are able to wax nostalgic so quickly, and we look back at drag racing through these rose-colored glasses, and we get drunk on trying to recreate it. And I do, I'm hearing a lot of the same things that I'm hearing that I'm seeing in the comments, that the new regime at IHRA, Larry Jeffers and company, are going to really focus on sportsman racing. That's, from what I understand, it's going to be sportsman. I've not been able to confirm this, but I don't believe there's going to be an effort to put back together a pro show necessarily.
Which I think is what everyone's was excited about when they heard this Larry Jeffers news, especially his connection to pro.
But don't you think that it's
go.
problematic in some ways to constantly, as a sport, be chasing these ghosts, right? I mean, I feel like there have been multitude of sanctions and series like chasing the ADRL, what it used to be. Everybody wants to see
even the ADRL kind of chasing itself,
the ADRL chasing itself, chasing the ghost of itself. And I think that we have to recognize those things were special for a reason, right? They were special because they were special. It was a moment in time. There was a synergy amongst the people, and there was just so many things working in their favor. And I do think as a sport, we get real hung up on trying to recreate the past instead of trying to pursue whatever is next. Let's create the next big special thing. Let's create the next magic moment in the sport of drag racing. I mean, we're seeing a magic moment right now with No Prep Kings. Street Outlaws No Prep Kings is presenting to the sport of drag racing a magical moment. We will look, and this isn't me forecasting or whatever, or saying that it's on, that it has a limited shelf life or a limited lifespan, but every product has a life cycle, right? And you are tasked with reinventing yourself, the next iteration, what are you going to do next? And I do think that at times we are so hung up on, man, I just want to bring back the IHRA of old. Well, hey, man, it feels like right now there's a lot of options for sportsman racers. I mean, you can race for crazy amounts of money multiple times a year.
There's a lot of options for almost every racer
level of drag racing.
We had that conversation with Tony Gillig a little bit. Is it helpful, or does it hurt that there are guys that want to go 8th Mile Pro or a Mountain Motor Pro Stock in PDRA? There are guys that want to go quarter mile with an NHRA exhibition series. There are some that wish they could go back to the IHRA heydays, and it kind of splits everything up. It's sort of like the diminishing returns, where
my question is
to have so many classes or so many places to race, but it splits the fields, and then you end up with short fields.
USP, unique selling proposition, right? That's a buzzword in marketing and sales. What's your USP? What's your unique sales proposition? And I wonder, what is the IHRA's unique? What will be their USP? Because that's a question that's worth answering, right? What are they going to do that's going to be different? What are they going to do that's going to set them apart? Because to say we're going to focus on sportsman racing is great, but how so? How are you going to change the experience? I'm anxious to see and hear what that vision is, and I think it's going to be important they outline it, because the biggest issue is that we've seen all these new plans. I mean, we talked about the glory days of the IHRA, but let's go back to 2016 when there was a small group of us in the media and connected sponsors that were on a call with the IHRA where they were outlining their plan to introduce Dragster One. Their version of Formula One racing. They were going to field
a farm system.
They were going to have this whole thing and fly around the world racing Top Fuel, and it was going to be called Dragster One. And you're hearing this and you're going, holy crap, we can't even get Mountain Motor Pro Stock cars to go to Canada, and we're going to take Top Fuel cars around the world on ships and planes and stuff. So I really think that there's going to be, then we saw them introduce, Pro Nostalgia Funny Car or whatever it was, and it was going to be a professional version of Nostalgia Funny Car racing. We've seen so many different iterations of the IHRA over the course of the last, several years, that I'm anxious to see what the vision is. And I want to hear those conversations. I struggle with that right now, that I wonder, like, what's the NHRA's vision for the future? Right? What are they trying to accomplish? What's next for them? What do they see on the horizon? And I think the IHRA could probably get a lot of buy-in real early if they make the plan known, if they make the vision known, because it's important for people to know or understand what the vision is, right? Like, it can be a lot of different ways. And I think folks will deal with some growing pains and will deal with some whatever you call it, early kinks and bugs that have to be worked out over the course of time, if they know where we're headed. Where are we headed? And they've
definitely got to set themselves apart, because like you said, you got to give people a reason to break from what they're currently doing and make plans for next year. So that does have to come out relatively soon. And it'll be interesting to see which way they go with it. I think you always like to say guilty by association. A lot of the appeal and prestige of running an NHRA race is, and we talked about this, is like you won Super Gas, but you're lumped in with John Force, who won Nitro Funny Car. And I know sportsman racers, sort of keep the blinders on and don't really pay attention to pros and vice versa. But to me, an organization, a sanctioning body, and IHRA in particular, you have to have that variety. You have to have the entertainment factor, the pro factor, the jet cars, wheel standers, stuff like that. And IHRA kind of had this outlaw mentality. I feel like, especially around here in the Southeast, it's, man, NHRA is too Southern California corporate.
It was like anti-conformist.
IHRA is like the good old boys.
Yeah.
And we're going to go, door slammer racing, and we're going to run at different tracks. We're going to do things a little bit differently. And I think all those things sort of came together in through the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And 2000s, and made something special. So I don't think that'll work again. I don't think you can just, like you said, go back and chase that ghost. But what will be the differentiating factor of the new IHRA?
I'm anxious to see, man. I mean, I think there's opportunity. I really do. But I do think it requires a vision for the future, because there are a lot of great options right now. I look at, the Great American Million, like a lot of these, the Great American Bracket Race Group, SFG, right? Luke Bogacki puts on great races. There's a gazillion places for sportsman racers to go race for big money. A lot of these tracks have great programs around the country. The NHRA national and divisional scene, and you're right about them. I believe strongly that one of the biggest, look no further than those Mountain Motor Pro Stock guys that we were just talking about. Don't think for a second, yeah, they want to run quarter mile. Yeah, of course, that's fantastic. But wrap your head around the fact that most of them are going to spend a bunch of money to go do this, race more than likely for a trophy, but they want to be guilty by association. They want to be in the staging lanes with John Force. They want to be parked next. They want to be in line to park behind the Napa hauler, right? They want to take that picture, post it on social. I'm part of this group. Yeah. It's the same reason people show up at No Prep Kings races and run big tire or run the small tire shootout. They want to be guilty by association. They want to tell their friends that they were at the exclusive party, right? The neighborhood cookout that Ryan Martin was at, that Murder Nova was at. And I think the IHRA will be tasked with sorting that out. What can they do to make... We lose sight of the fact that all of these drag races are social events. For the most part. And the NHRA has done a remarkable job of creating 22 can't miss social happenings. You don't want to be there you don't want to miss it when so-and-so wins, or Joe Blow barrel rolls his golf cart or whatever, or miss the big party, or Scott Palmer's got a nitro margarita mixer out. I mean, you think those things don't matter, but man, they do. Those are the,
because you're going to race where your friends are going. So
yeah,
it's sort of like you need the tide to shift. And if one person goes and says, I'm going to IHRA, and then another one, and then another one, and then the guy looks around and all of his buddies,
and that becomes the party,
they're going there. And you've got to kind of get that initial buy-in.
And it's a process. And I'm anxious to see how it plays out, man. I mean, and that's, it's a very interesting thing.
I hope, I'm wishing the best for them.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
We talk about it all the time. Drag racing was its best when IHRA was pushing NHRA to keep up or improve their show so they could stay as the worldwide leader in drag racing. And when IHRA went away, I think you could see a noticeable difference in how NHRA operated. And they've kind of just only gotten back to that level.
I agree. And Bobby Bennett from competitionplus.com, he has been quoted multiple times as saying that, like, the NHRA is never better than when the IHRA is great. Like, there has to be competition. There has to be another option. I think it's important. I really do. And there are great options that exist in drag racing right now, but there's no arguing that the NHRA is the major leagues. And there needs to be a clear number two. There needs to be somebody that at least challenges them, gives some guys some opportunities, but it doesn't sound like that's where the IHRA wants to go. They really want, I think, to cement themselves as a sportsman-friendly sanction and series, and I'm anxious to see how they do it. And I wish them well. I think drag racing needs the IHRA. I saw some post on social, what's the IHRA even worth?
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, the IHRA brand, it's not worth nothing. That's for sure.
We get questioned all the time. Whatever happened to IHRA?
Yeah.
A lot of people sort of, maybe they were involved in the sport, then they come back in and haven't paid attention in a while, or they just happens to them like, man, what happened? What happened to Drag Review? What happened to the awesome magazine they had? What happened to IHRA? What happened to this? What happened to that? And it's something that, again, I think that most people of our generation and older remember those glory days and would like to see it get back to that.
I agree. And I think there's going to be opportunities for us. I've thought, I wonder if they intend to do like Drag Review Magazine. Because if not, like, man, we need to make all those members subscribers to DI. You know what I mean? Like, there's some opportunities to work together there. And that membership is significant. People are extremely proud of their membership to the IHRA. I think that it almost, to me, smacked of an NRA membership, National Rifle Association, right? People were very proud of that IHRA affiliation. And I'm just glad to see somebody pick it up that I believe cares about it and recognizes the history and appreciates all of that, but hopefully has a vision for the future. Mike, we're getting some comments here, like, let's do a little Q&A. We got a couple of minutes here. Do you want to talk at all? If you guys have anything you want us to touch on, Cool Truckin', anybody else in the chat here, go ahead and throw them out. But what do you make? We're going to talk to Scott Palmer next Wednesday. Set your count, mark your calendars, guys. We're going to talk to Scott Palmer next Wednesday about his No Prep Kings debut in Top Fuel. He's going to show up along with Greg Carrillo and do a Top Fuel match race. I believe they're going to run once on Friday night and once on Saturday night. I think there's like $20,000 up for grabs, but I'm just curious, what's your take on Top Fuel No Prep racing? I've got an opinion on it, but I'm curious what's yours. Is this something that you're excited about? Or?
Yeah, I think we talked about this whenever we first heard rumors of this potentially happening. And I think my opinion, at that time and still is that if this is a one-off deal, or if this is something that only happens, at a few races or a few NPK races throughout the year, I think it's something that could add to the show. But the last thing you'd want is for this to become a regular deal where now all of a sudden, like you said, Ryan Martin, Lizzie Musey, Guy Kelly, now they're not the fastest cars on the property. I think that's the only downside to it, but I'm happy for Scott. I'm happy Scott's like making his name as a guy that will go do this kind of stuff for big money or for a one-off event like the Stampede of Speed deal last year.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's what this is more than anything. But it's going to be interesting to see, how they even perform on a no prep surface.
I wonder what NHRA thinks about it, because I don't think anybody benefits from this deal more than the NHRA.
Yeah,
I mean, I really don't. I mean, we talk all the time. From what I've been able to piece together, there's not even like communication between the No Prep Kings group and the NHRA group. I find it very interesting because I truly believe that it could be problematic. Personally, I wouldn't have anything on the property that would upstage Ryan Martin, Lizzie Musey, Murder Nova. I just wouldn't. If we're being honest, I'm not sold on it. I get it and I understand it, and I certainly understand it for Scott Palmer, because I think Scott Palmer is doing this for Scott Palmer. Mm-hmm. Scott Palmer recognizes that this is an opportunity for him to get in front of a huge audience, introduce himself to a new audience. I mean, Scott's got all the hardcores, right? I mean, he's got a legion of following, legions of followers in the hardcore drag racing group, but he's about to introduce himself to a bunch of fresh-faced race fans that are television, reality TV fans, not necessarily drag racing fans. So I think it's a big opportunity for Scott and I don't fault him at all. But it is interesting, right? Because I just don't know. I mean, if I'm MPK, if I'm Sam Corcus in that group, I'm going, man, I'm not letting anybody have any of our shine. I mean, NPK is perhaps the strongest, hottest thing in town right now when it comes to drag racing. I don't think they need it.
It'll be interesting to have Scott on the show and ask him these questions and or ask him what's, behind the scenes, what is the end goal? Why is this happening? What's the sort of give us some of the dirt on that. I think without having Sam on the show directly to ask him,
it tells me that there's another show on
the
the horizon. There's another event on the horizon, because I see a comment here, Street Outlaws MPK Spoilers is saying, if Pilgrim wasn't getting something out of it, Sam Corcus wouldn't allow it to happen. I have to agree. For me, reading the tea leaves, there has to be something on the horizon. There has to be something that involves this particular type of racing on the horizon. Otherwise, I don't see clearly, they don't need any help selling tickets. They don't need any help packing out racetracks. They don't need more. So you have to wonder, this has to be some sort of test. This has to be some sort of testing the water for what could come in the future. And maybe it's a reality show just following Scott Palmer around. Hell, I'd watch it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a worthwhile thing. I'd DVR it and binge watch it. I mean, I think that maybe that's what it is, because I see Scott Palmer kind of being branded as this Evel Knievel. That's one of Scott's heroes, is Evel Knievel. And I kind of see him developing into that. He'll drive a Nitro Pro Mod. He'll drive a Top Fuel car. He'll drive it on prep tracks. He'll drive it on no prep tracks. He'll drive a Pro Mod. I mean, he told me this morning that he took the torque converter out of his car and put a clutch back in his Pro Mod just because it's more fun. That's the way that he wants to do it. He wants to rev it up and
we need more
drop the bomb
Scott
on
Palmers, man.
So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's creating this character and developing the character and the superstar that Scott Palmer, I believe, is and can be. Right. So maybe that's what it is, because
I hope that's what it is.
I hope that's what it is.
That would be the best thing for Scott and the sport.
But I am curious about it, because I wonder what the fans will think. I think the argument, and I talked to Andy Carter a little bit about this yesterday, that a Top Fuel car is just so dramatically different than a door slammer. But still, man, I mean, I remember back in the glory days of the ADRL, there was a moment where Kenny Nolling and company had considered like booking in fuel alters or booking in some Nitro Funny cars or some Top Fuel cars to kind of complement the show. But how are you going to market Jason Scruggs as the baddest dude to ever walk and the best in the world? Like if there's someone in there right in front of you with a faster car, that's doing crazier shit. I mean, got 10-foot header flames hanging out of this thing. Mm-hmm. I do think it's an interesting thing, and nobody stands to benefit from it more than NHRA. Like if I'm them, I'm sending at least, a bottle of champagne or a thank you card or something, because I can't help but believe there will be fans in Tulsa, Oklahoma on August 12th that are exposed to Top Fuel Nitro drag racing for the first time and will immediately look for an opportunity to do it again.
Do you think that really holds true, that like there's not a lot of crossover between MPK and NHRA fans?
1,000,000%. I saw
mostly laser focused on NPK.
When I went to the NHRA national event, the Stampede of Speed, last October, at the legendary Texas Motorplex, the house that Billy Meyer built. I was there. How long were you there? I think I was there for like 6 out of 7 days. I was there constantly, and I saw tremendous crowds, spectacular. And I'm here to tell you, people get real wrapped up in posting that MPK is getting way bigger crowds than NHRA. They're not. Like whatever your buddy's saying is bullshit. Like the biggest crowds that exist in drag racing are within the NHRA. Like it just is what it is. However, whenever I was at the NHRA Stampede of Speed, the NHRA Fall Nationals in Dallas, I was there like every day, and you see it's a different demographic. It's a different age group. There's certainly young folk there. There's certainly kids there. But you see a lot of real deal dyed-in-the-wool drag racing fans, right? You see people with NHRA tattoos. You see people with, Nitro helmets on and all this stuff, right? I was there the next week for the Street Outlaws, second to last race of the season. No Prep Kings rolled into Texas Motorplex, and I was like genuinely stunned by the difference in the crowds. I mean, there was a big crowd at MPK, but it was young folks. It was husband, wives, 2 kids. It was lines of people that were there to see one guy. They were there to see their favorite dude from the show. They wanted to get his autograph. They wanted to get a picture with him. They wanted to buy a shirt. It's a decidedly different group of people. And I know there's crossover for sure, but I don't think, I would say a lot of those folks haven't been to a drag race before, don't know what Comp Eliminator is, right? Don't know what Super Stock
they're not necessarily drag racing fans first,
No.
or even car guys or gals first. They're Murder Nova fans.
Yeah, man. You
Of
go
the-
through
of
the
the
pits and you
person.
see Toyota Priuses, or not
Yeah.
the pits, the parking lot. You go through the parking lot and you see a lot of like 4-door sedans. You see Toyota Priuses. You see, just bone stock. But you go to you walk through the parking lot of an NHRA race, you're gonna see like 5.0 Mustangs that got front runners on them, skinnies and slicks, right? Parked in the parking lot. You're gonna see lifted up trucks. You're gonna see Harleys with pipes and custom paint jobs. Car people, right? People that are genuine enthusiasts that have a passion for the automotive world away from the racetrack. I'm not saying there's not some of that, but it's a lot of just casual fans that watch this on TV and want to come out. So I genuinely think someone's going to be in the stands at Osage Casino, Tulsa Raceway Park in Oklahoma. They're going to see a pair of Top Fuel cars go down. They're probably going to see a pedal fest. They're going to see these things hanging flames out of them on and off like a light switch. They're going to see the fumes. And man, you put 2 big show Top Fuel cars at Tulsa, that's a vibe, brother. I mean, that's a movie. I mean, the
Maybe
fumes
with the lights
hanging.
off, knowing
Yeah.
Scott Palmer turned the lights out.
Knowing Palmer, he'll turn the lights off, or I don't know, run into a spike pit or something. There's no telling what those guys might do. But I'm telling you, they will sell tickets to their other Nitro races there. The NHRA the Midwestern NHRA tracks will benefit from that. I really, really, really think that's true. And I find it interesting, man.
You want to answer another question?
Sure.
You're talking about Midwest tracks. Let's talk about a West Coast track. Dar Hawthorne asks, is 2023 the last year for the Pomona Winter Nationals? And I think I don't think that we've really heard much about that, but I think his question is coming from the fact that Gainesville is now the season opener, and then they go to Pomona and Phoenix, but Phoenix is coming off the schedule after 2023. So will Pomona hanging way out there on the West Coast, where's that going to fit on the schedule?
I personally think it probably is. I think it's the beginning of the end of that race. At least I think there's a bunch of, and this isn't like a negative thing about NHRA. It's just that you're going to the well quite a bit to bring fans out mid-November and then bring them right back out mid-February or whatever, how they've historically done it. I think there's a lot of options in Southern California. Yeah, there's a lot of options in Southern California for entertainment. There's a ton of stuff going on. I think it's really difficult to cut through there. And then you talk about all just the expense, like you said, of heading out west, the expense of everything in Southern California. I think it's on its, not on its, I think it's, the end is near. I really do. I think that they will continue to run the finals there for as long as is feasible. I mean, you can't help but go to Pomona and see like cars driving by and like, street lights and all this stuff. I'm like, man, the urban sprawl is on top of this thing. I don't know.
We have Vegas usually and then Pomona, right? So that I feel like you've got to group these locations together. And if you've just got one race hanging out there, on the far left coast, that's going to be a tough deal for a lot of these teams, especially when you're starting the season in Gainesville.
I think we're about to see a bunch of significant changes on the NHRA schedule. I mean, if you look at, I never in my wildest dreams thought we would see the NHRA season start in Gainesville, but it almost felt like, I mean, they always call it the East Coast opener. I mean, it felt like it feels almost necessary. I was genuinely excited about it because it was one of the first real racer-centric moves I've seen the NHRA make in a minute. I think that this was them having their ears open, listening to the racers, listening to the concerns of these team owners and the people that make this all happen. And I think they did the right thing. But then you start to think about Atlanta's gone, Phoenix is going away. There's talk about Denver, Houston's gone. I mean, there's about to be some significant holes on that NHRA schedule. And you go, what's this going to look like in the future? So no, I think Dar Hawthorne's asking. He's great with questions. It's a significant one, man. And for those people that kind of grew up, in the heyday of drag racing in Southern California, that's going to be a huge change. I mean, I can't imagine there not being the Winter Nationals in Pomona, but I definitely think it's
we could be gaining a track though. A lot of talk around Route 66 and Joliet coming back on. I don't know if you saw our buddy Brian Loans kind of made a cryptic
I thought so
post, sort of referencing, could we see this back on the schedule in 2023? And I mean, if anybody knows has
Brian.
the inside track, it's Brian. So
that's a crazy one. To not have a track like that on the tour is beyond me. And I see that area as very racer centric. There's a lot of fans there. Door Slammer racing is strong there. I mean, I think about some of the events they've had at Byron and Cordova, and I mean, holy moly, man. I mean, you're talking about some holy grail moments, I mean, that have happened at those two tracks. Why Chicago, Route 66 Raceway can't be a part of that conversation is beyond me. So there's certainly opportunities, but yeah, it's a wild time right now. I just think all arrows are pointing towards less national events. I think that's going to be a tough pill for the NHRA to swallow, but man, I struggle to get excited about the return trips. You know what I mean? Part of me thinks if you're going to Vegas and there's 4 lanes there, you need to run all 4 of them. If you're going to ZMAX and there's 4 lanes there, you need to run all 4 of them. I just wonder if, but I'm sure that's a tough conversation to have with Speedway Motorsports. Like, hey man, I know you built this
your largest track owner.
$1 billion. You're the largest track owner and we don't want to come here as often. But man, we just have to, I really think that there's a lesson to be learned, or there's something to take from the fact, like, the biggest, most telling thing, in my opinion, that has gone on with as far as NHRA tracks are concerned is Houston Raceway Park not having a national event, but acknowledging that they're going to stay open. Like, that's a very telling and concerning situation. It tells me that the business model doesn't make sense. Something's got to change. Because if Houston Raceway Park, 5 million some odd people or whatever that live in Houston, I can't imagine. That's a huge market.
Well, that's not the only time we've heard that, through the grapevine from other.
If that place stays open for the foreseeable future and doesn't have an NHRA national event, I mean, that surprises me. That is shocking to me, to be honest, that the NHRA, but it tells me that, man, something's got to change, and I don't know what that is, if it's the way these things are split, if it's the contract price. I mean, it's a
Cool Truckin' said Firebird Raceway. Hey, like a month ago, that's what I said.
Yeah.
That's a perfect geographic location that NHRA doesn't hit currently. Great family, great track operators, great track. I just don't know how big it is as far as parking and seating.
Yeah, Colton Jordan with a great comment here. I want so badly to see Tulsa Raceway Park get a national event. I love the small track but big show feel. I agree, man. I think about when I know the racers. Radar. I think Tulsa is on the radar for sure. But the NHRA looks good. It's great to go to these huge venues with tons of parking and great bathrooms and shower, everything else. But man, drag racing looks pretty damn good at New England Dragway. You know what I mean? Like, it just looks good, packing that place out. It's sometimes, Scott Palmer and I talked about this morning. At times, this is another issue that exists in drag racing at times, is this ongoing kind of identity crisis. Dude, we're a bunch of badasses and outlaws. We're a little rough around the edges. We're not Formula One. We're not NASCAR. And sometimes I think we need to lean into our identity instead of be constantly trying to reinvent ourselves as something else, like trying to be more like NASCAR. Man, let's go into these places and shut them down. Let's roll into a track that we can pack. Let's go to communities that can't wait for us. Gainesville is kind of like the best of both worlds. You go down there, the locals know about this race. Their whole year's built around it. They're going. They don't care how much it rains. And they're gonna. And it's a very, very, very nice facility. So it's like the best of both worlds
of any NHRA national event track. And that place on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and you're up there in the tower and you look across those grandstands, and there's not an empty space to be seen. It's unreal. That Gainesville is my favorite race on the circuit for a lot of reasons, but that's one of them.
Oh, it's badass. That place is special. And I'll tell you guys, brace yourselves for some industry shaping news in the coming days. There's going to be some big races, one especially big one coming up here that you're going to want to know about, guys. Let's run through our sponsors real quick. I just want to thank everybody one more time. Huge shout out to the gang at Elite HP, all of our friends at Stroud Safety, Redline Synthetic Oils, Flow Racing, of course. Huge shout out to our guest today, Tony Schumacher. Crazy to have him on here. TJ Coughlin scored his first pro stock win this past weekend. Congratulations to him. Tony Gillig, one of the best to ever do it. And as far as I'm concerned, natural driver. Great to hear about his plans for the rest of the season. Mike, you got anything else, buddy?
Man, that's it. I think we covered a ton of ground today.
Dude, we did cover a ton of ground. Real quick reminder, though, we can't do any of this stuff without all of you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in, clicking like, clicking share, clicking subscribe. Thank you for being a part of the movement that is everything that we've got going on here at Drag Illustrated. Stay tuned. Like I said, we got some big news that's coming in the following days and weeks that we're very excited about. Yeah, man, that's all those improvements at Bradenton. That's pretty interesting, huh?
It's badass.
I think it's badass. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on the Wes Buck Show.
Thanks, guys.
Coda.